Hey everyone, welcome to TPUSA Live. I'm Jon Root. I'm sitting next to Isabel Brown, and please tell us if it's a bones or no bones day.
Okay, first I just want to hear your prediction. You said you were sure it was a bones day, right?
I'm dressed up nice, and I'm feeling it today, so I'm going bones day.
I really thought it was a no bones day. I really, truly, in my soul, believed it was going to be a no bones day. Not only is it a bones day, this dog is walking around outside. He didn't even sit in his bed upright. He's literally like exploring the world. So I guess it's our responsibility now to have the greatest day of all time, per Noodle the Pug on TikTok. Go watch the video. It's so cute.
Yeah, but Isabel gave us a breakdown yesterday. I guess on TikTok there's a pug, if its owner like holds it up and it doesn't flop over, it's a bones day.
He's 13 years old, so he's quite old and frail.
Basically it comes down to this is going to be a great day.
It's going to be a good day. He basically predicts whether or not you're going to have an awesome day, and today is going to be an awesome day on TPUSA Live.
We got coming up next, Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. He was talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial the past few days, and then he's going to keep up with a little FBI update. Also, there's Virginia election exit poll results, and it definitely went in a certain side's favor.
You know, differently than I was expecting, too. I think
Shocking,
the whole
actually.
world was expecting a different result. So this is just going to give the conservative movement so much to be excited about going into next year, and I don't think we could have predicted anything better.
Yeah, absolute clean sweep. He will break that down for you on Human Events Daily. Also, Defund the Police, major failure there in Seattle and Minneapolis. So big time news coming from Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. Right after that, sitting on the couch with Isabel Brown again.
I will be back.
Host of On The Frontlines. We're going to give you a breakdown of that in just a little bit on our weekly show breakdown. Also, we got TPUSA Ambassador Rachelle Hernandez is back, and then we got Braeden Sorbo, TPUSA Ambassador, with us too.
We are diving into all sorts of topics today on the couch, including protecting our youth, What in the World Wednesday, which is one of my favorite games that we play on TPUSA Live, by the way. What's happening with climate change, or should I say blah, 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 blah in the world.
Greta.
Thank you, Greta Thunberg, and even more.
And then right after that, you got some weekly shows. We got Smash with MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis. Oh, he's just such a beast.
He is, but what I love about Stephen, and I wish more people got to see this behind the camera, is that he's such a big, domineering personality, but then when you actually get to talk to him, he's just the nicest, most genuine, sweet human being I've ever met in my life.
Stephen Davis might be the nicest guy I've ever met.
Like, of all time.
But at the same time, he can totally smash the leftist agenda, and that's what he's going to do today. He's going to talk about their whole infatuation with praising degeneracy, like talking about how we should celebrate those who get out of jail more often than those who make their way through college and then get into the workforce, and so much more.
So excited to hear what he has to say. Then after that, we have another episode of On the Frontlines with yours truly here. We are diving into what's happening with cyberspace. There's a word we haven't heard in a little while. It's what we used to call
the metaverse.
The internet way back when we were kids. But with education moving into such a digital space and the conservative movement and our battle for the culture war really being fought online, what role do conservative students have to play in that process? I'm sitting down with Kangmin Lee, one of my dear friends who also happens to be a TPUSA ambassador, about his experience as a recent graduate getting fired from his job in pharmaceuticals because of his presence online.
And then right after that, you got some Alex Clark. You got a new episode of Politics. And sometimes I just say some things that are coming from the Politics script that I just never want to say in my life. But I guess there's a Nipplegate documentary coming out from FX.
I hope you have to say that phrase.
I have to say it multiple times today. It's the worst, but it's all about the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake halftime show debacle from the Super Bowl, and then she's got a sports recap, and then big news. I know my mom will be super excited about this. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is coming back. There's going to be people lining up the streets. It's going to be fantastic.
I've never been in person, but it's always been on my bucket list. Maybe it's more of a girl thing, I guess. I don't know, to really be obsessed with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I think it is so fun to watch every single year. COVID ruined it, just like everything else in our country, so I'm glad that it's back.
And a few more things for you before we let you go and then dive into Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. Huge shout out to the Atlanta Braves. Got a big win last night, won 7-0 over the Houston Astros.
Let's go Braves. And Southwest, I said Brandon. Let's go Braves, not Brandon. Just a thought, I don't know, as you complete your investigation there. Yeah. But also, let's go Brandon while we're at it.
Amen to that, amen to that. But the Braves won for the first time in 26 years, and also a little little piece of news. Carole Baskin is suing the production company of Tiger King 2 because I guess they might have used footage that she didn't agree to or something like that.
I hope we get a new TikTok trend like killed her husband, whacked him out of this. I would be really excited about it.
It's going to be a great show for you. It definitely is a Bones Day. There's no doubt about that.
Starting to feel like more of a Bones Day, I'll be honest.
Coming up next, we got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. We'll see you guys soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Today's top stories: the woke lash, reactions to the Virginia election exit polls. Next, huge ongoing story and developments in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial based on our reporting yesterday of the FBI's involvement in a cover-up regarding their surveillance of Kyle and the events of that evening. Next, the Seattle City Attorney and Minneapolis Defund Police completely fail in their elections. We'll talk about it. And finally, General Milley comments about China attacking Taiwan. All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily. Last night, the citizens of Virginia, New Jersey, and several other states delivered what appears to be, what many people are now calling, a woke lash to the policies of the left and really the policies of the leftist administration that we have here in the United States. Listen to the absolute meltdown on cable news.
I think we know the answer to some of this. I watched Glenn Youngkin's interviews on Fox News, and he did nothing that he did not. I mean, he worshipped at the altar of Donald Trump on Fox News. He flew an insurrection flag at his rallies. He simply didn't. He played dumb about a Zoom rally. He did not really put much distance between himself and Donald Trump on the big lie or the deadly insurrection in which police officers were maimed by flagpoles. So I think that the real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection-endorsed Republican. What do Democrats do about that?
Wherever you look, it looks like these college-educated suburban white voters who Democrats thought were breaking their way, you know, they rallied back around critical race theory. And again, you know, for me, critical race theory, Joy, is just the most recent, more eloquent iteration of the Southern strategy, right? Whether it be crosstown busing, whether it be the welfare queen, whether it be defund the police. This original sin of America keeps evolving, and critical race theory is the most latest and most eloquent, quite frankly, iteration of the Southern strategy, in a way, quite frankly, to tribalize an election, to tribalize an electorate in a way to drive up the white vote.
There are some variables that are moving in the right direction at this point.
And the exit polls showed that which was interesting, that the coronavirus, or that the virus, was a very
low
was not importance to many of the voters
which
there.
Was fascinating.
It was education,
right,
which is code for white parents don't like the idea of teaching about race. And I mean, unfortunately, race is just the most palpable tool in the toolkit. It used to be of the Democratic Party back in the day when they were Dixiecrats, and now of the Republican Party. It just is powerful.
So you understand what's going on there. There's two things, there's really two strata that's going on, and they are terrified, absolutely terrified, of the fact that they have been exposed for pushing critical race theory, for putting this on the map, for putting it into our schools. And this is actually something, for all the thanks and the accolades, you know, over Virginia, I think that one person that really needs to be thanked is Anthony Fauci. Right? Anthony Fauci, what does this have to do? Well, number one, we know that Fauci was involved in the funding of gain-of-function experiments in the Wuhan lab, COVID-19. But then after COVID-19 takes off, what did Fauci push for? The lockdowns. The lockdowns meant what? For schools, Zoom classrooms. What did Zoom classrooms expose? What was going on in the classrooms? Critical race theory. So for people like Chris Rufo, for investigative journalists like Luke Rosiak, they were then able to prove what was going on, what they were talking about in their journalism, and what was happening in our schools. This new theology, right? And it really is. Critical race theory is a religion. I would actually consider it a pagan religion. I would actually consider it a pagan religion, a form of worship, maybe a disorganized religion, right? But you could look at potentially, you are preaching to these children in the schoolrooms, and you are teaching them a new pagan religion, which has nothing to do with any of their education. It has nothing to do with the actual history of this country. And parents found out about it, and they became activated. This is a huge part of what's going on, and it ain't just Virginia, folks. This happened in New Jersey. This is happening across the country. So you're seeing that being a massive, massive swing indicator for many of these suburban districts. And then your kids are being taught to hate their families, to hate their ancestors, to hate their homeland, to hate their country, to even hate themselves. And that's what you get. You push that crap too much, that pagan religious worship, you get a woke lash. And that's what's going on in this country. People put their shoulder to the wheel and they said, no more. The parents said, you are not taking our children. This is a roadmap. This is an absolute roadmap for conservatives, for libertarians, and for traditional American values, for people to say, we're sick of it and we're not taking it anymore. Now, yesterday's episode, we broke that extremely shocking story that an FBI plane was up and was surveilling Kyle Rittenhouse and the entire events of that evening in Kenosha. No one played that footage other than us. Nobody broke that story. The cable networks wouldn't touch it. That is why Human Events Daily exists. So I want you to listen to the opening statement from the defense in this case, the guy who finally got up and he's defending Kyle. Listen to what he said and his characterization of what took place on the events of August 24th, 2020, what happened that night, and it completely breaks apart the mainstream media narrative.
We have two very different outlooks on the events of August 25th of 2020. Mr. Binger makes a big thing out of Kyle Rittenhouse was the only person who shot somebody that evening. True. Mr. Rittenhouse was the only person who was chased by Joseph Rosenbaum that evening. You'll hear testimony, not just from Kyle Rittenhouse, but Balch, Mr. Balch, about Joseph Rosenbaum stating to Kyle and to Ryan Balch in each other's presence, if I get either of you two alone, I'm going to kill you. Flat out threats to murder. When Mr. Rosenbaum is shot in the car source lot 3, there's been a gunshot behind Kyle. He turns to address Mr. Rosenbaum with his firearm. Mr. Rosenbaum is not deterred. He continues to run. He acted in self-defense, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence will show that his actions on August 25th of 2020 were reasonable under the circumstances as they existed that night, being attacked by Mr. Rosenbaum. Kyle Rittenhouse protected himself, protected his firearm so it couldn't be taken, used against him or other people from Mr. Rosenbaum.
So here's the biggest development, though. As the witnesses went through day one of the trial, they first had Kyle Rittenhouse's friend testify. He said, yes, I purchased the rifle, I owned the rifle, it didn't cross state lines. Remember, this has been a key aspect of the case that the media has focused in on and the left is focused in on as well. They said that Kyle Rittenhouse's gun crossed state lines. Not true. That was a gun that wasn't his. It was owned by his friend who was over 18, purchased by him. He let Kyle use it to defend himself in the riots, which actually, if you look under the statute, seems to be true, seems to be actually something he's legally able to do, because the statute, when you actually look it up, it says it's about short-barreled rifles and shotguns. This is not a short-barreled rifle or shotgun. But the bigger picture is, the second witness, when they went up, the judge said, well, we have a problem here. That witness can't be on camera. Well, who was that witness? Who could it be? Who could it be? We later found out here at Human Events Daily from a source in the courtroom that that witness was an FBI employee, an FBI official who was testifying off camera and who had stated that he had this video, but that he wouldn't actually be able to show it to the public. So the video we showed yesterday of the FBI aerial surveillance of Kyle Rittenhouse that they held for 14 months, that they prevented the public from having, that they prevented Kyle's lawyers from having only up until a couple of weeks ago, we're told, they wouldn't even show it at trial. They showed the jury at least they showed the jury, and he wouldn't even show his face. Do you understand what's going on here? The FBI had Kyle under surveillance this whole time. They knew they had it. We're even told that they had a second video, an HD version of the video. But when Kyle's lawyers filed a FOIA for it, they were told that the information was gone, that the information was missing. And let me tell you something else. I've been in that business. I understand a little something about aerial surveillance. I guarantee you, there was not only optical surveillance up there. They most certainly had electronic communications intelligence, signals intelligence in a package on that bird. That means that the cell phones were being sucked up by the Stingray device that was attached to this plane. That means that they were able to positively identify every single person with the cell phone that was in that crowd. The shooter, whose name we don't know, who shot at Kyle 4 times, the people who were chasing him, the people who were assailing him, they knew about it. Why has the FBI covered this up? Why did Chris Wray not let us know immediately what had happened that night? Why didn't he go public and say, we understand what happened? And why didn't the FBI go after all of these individuals that they had on camera looting, rioting, and committing arson throughout the streets of Kenosha? And I guarantee you they had planes like this across all of the cities that were burned during 2020. The FBI had surveillance of the entire thing, and they covered it all up. Human Events Daily will not drop this story. Two huge stories from last night that we have to make sure that people don't miss, because these are absolutely groundbreaking stories. We've been talking about the get out of cities thing. That's been my thing for almost 2 years now. I've been saying get out of cities, get out of cities. And now we're starting to see, I will say this, and I'm not changing my diagnosis. I'm still saying get out of cities, but we're starting to see some positive energy on that front. In 2 cases, the city of Seattle and the city of Minneapolis. In Seattle, Ann Davison, a Republican, led police abolitionist Nicole Thomas Kennedy in Seattle city attorney race. What does it mean? It looks like Ann Davison is holding, this is according to Seattle Times, held a strong 58 to 41% lead in the race for Seattle city attorney, with returns Tuesday showing voters rejecting the brash language of her police abolitionist opponent in favor of Davison's law and order stance. Remember, Seattle is the city that had the Chaz, where I went and infiltrated that with my brother. We were in there day and night. We saw the guns, we saw the shooting that took place just after we left, the people who were killed out there, the lawlessness that took place in the city of Seattle. And now they have someone who was just elected on a law and order platform citywide to that city attorney's office. So that, I gotta say, a very interesting situation. as well. Listen to what just happened. We have a clip of this. Listen to what happened in Minneapolis overnight.
Voters in Minneapolis rejected a ballot measure to replace the city's police department there. The move to overhaul policing in Minneapolis came after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Question 2 on the ballot was to replace the department with a Department of Public Safety instead, where mental health specialists would actually be working on the force. And 56% said no, 44% voting yes. Kelsey Kernstein is live in Minneapolis with more on these results. Kelsey?
Well, Adrian, a historic voter turnout, but I can tell you this, we're in a park. I just asked a resident, is he happy with the results, upset with the results? He said it shows that he thinks that Minneapolis is closer to sanity. He also said, look, we know that there needs to be police reform. But yes, the voters spoke. 56% said no to the referendum. They said no to replacing the Minneapolis Police Department. 44% said yes. That group that got it on the ballot, this referendum, this coalition, Yes for Minneapolis, they got 20,000 signatures to get that coalition on the ballot. We know that it emerged after the killing of George Floyd. Now we know it emerged after the protests across here in Minneapolis and across the nation. Now they say that they changed the conversation of public safety. They plan to continue to hold the system accountable, those in power accountable, but it's been a historic turnout here.
This measure, by the way, and something they didn't bring up, but I'll bring up, this was supported by far left Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a member of the Squad. Remember, Minneapolis, this, of course, is the city. Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, where everything went down, where the whole thing got started. And they voted against it by 57% of Minneapolis voters said they don't want this. This is a message, a clear signal of what's going on. These are not conservative areas. These are not, bright red, America first kind of, all that stuff. These are blue, deep blue cities. Seattle and Minneapolis, deep blue cities. But you're seeing how bad things have gotten. And New York, by the way, of course, the new mayor was elected on a law and order platform. Our city's taking a turn. I think they're trying to, but ultimately, I do think that the cities are in a spiral, and I do believe that. So while I am cautiously optimistic about the near-term changes that may be put in place in some of these places, I do think that unfortunately the structural issues in the cities are not going to change. But for the time being, we look at what happened in Seattle, we look at what happened in Minneapolis, and we say, God bless you, God bless the people who live there. We only wish you the best. Once again, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting this show, supporting this podcast. If you want to continue that support, go to mypillow.com, use promo code POSO. Make sure that you are being the influence agent. And by the way, get your orders in now for Christmas. It's coming so soon. You know the supply chain issues that are out there, the trucking issues that are out there, the shortages. Get it done. Get that peace of mind. MyPillow.com, promo code POSO. You got the towels, the sheets, the toppers, the pillows. You can't go wrong. We've got to get into this story because my favorite general in the world is back, General Milley. Listen to what General Milley had to say when he was asked about the question of Taiwan. Take a listen.
It depends on what you mean by near future. So I've said in testimony that my personal estimate is, and I hesitate to speculate on anything in the future because anything can happen. There's a wide variety of scenarios that could happen. But I would say that based on my analysis of China, I don't think that it is likely in the next near future being defined as 6, 12, maybe 24 months, that kind of window. Having said that, though, the Chinese are clearly and unambiguously building the capability to provide those options to the national leadership if they so choose at some point in the future. But near future, probably not, but anything can happen.
It recently became public that you had communications with your Chinese counterpart over, signals that how they may be interpreted. Are you talking about this? Have they talked to you about their current capabilities and tests?
Well, unless, I would say that I don't typically talk about the substance of the conversations I have with my Russian counterparts, my Chinese counterparts, except to other members of the government with appropriate classifications, et cetera, typically. And the calls that you're talking about, I testified to a week or so, or a couple weeks ago. But what that's indicative of, in my mind, is the need for increased, not decreased, increased mill-to-mill communications, government-to-government communications, because part of deterrence is having the capability to impose costs on your opponent and making sure that you have the political will to actually use it. But also a third piece of deterrence that's really important is clear, unambiguous communications between both sides. As long as they're coordinated and as long as the various parts of the government are involved in that, it's very important. So I think those calls, and I've made many calls to counterparts around the world as part of my job, I think those calls are indicative of something that we're going to have to reinforce, expand, and need more of as we go forward in the next 10, 20 years.
So you hear that, right? You know, General Milley, he's like one of these generals straight out of Central Casting. Like, he's the character in the Hollywood movie that sends all his troops into combat, doesn't realize what's going on, and the entire team gets taken out, right? That's the character he would be playing in a movie. This is a guy who has no clue what's happening. You hear him right there. He goes, well, I've talked to China, and they assured me that they will not attack Taiwan in the next 6, 12, 24-month period. And I believe we can trust General Lee over there. Yeah, he's a good guy, right? This is ridiculous. This is insane. You're saying trust them? We need to talk to them more? You need to take them out of their word, increase communication, increase mill-to-mill dialogue. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This guy is a clown. And I'm sorry for saying it, and I wish that our military wasn't like this, but it has to be called out. You cannot have a sitting general talk like this. If he says it's not gonna happen in 24 months, why? Because they told you that? Because you trusted them? That means it's probably gonna happen in 24 minutes. That's all the time we have here for Human Events Daily, but as I said, be the influence agent. Remember our motto to you: be good, be brief, be gone. We are going to give you the bottom line up front, and we are leading the charge on the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I know there's other people talking about it, but we are breaking news, we are dropping the receipts, and we are dropping bombshells, and we're going to be continuing to do that day after day here on this show. But before we go, it's time for today's moment of history. Today, in 1868, Ulysses S. Grant elected the 18th president of the United States. And here's something, by the way, that not everybody knows, that Ulysses S. Grant was actually, I believe this might be true, the only president of the United States to be arrested while he was the sitting president. What was he arrested for? Right here in the city of Washington, D.C., not very far from where I'm actually sitting right now. He was arrested for speeding on his horse. Can you believe that? Ladies and gentlemen, you have my permission to lay ashore. All right, from chilly Washington, D.C., you know, I got to be in Orlando for a couple of days. I'm back in Washington, then we're going out to Texas. It's a wild, wild week. By the way, if you want to see me in Texas, I'll be at Better Discourse Fort Worth this Saturday. I believe there's a couple of tickets left, not many though. So, for all of us, to all of you, we're now tossing it over to Phoenix, Arizona, onto the couch, and all our friends there. John, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Hey everyone, I'm Jon Root. Welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. This is TPUSA Live. Let's dive right on in. Here's what we're going to cover today. First, we'll give you details about a Florida freedom of speech case and Disneyland shutting down for a day in the Daily Briefing. Next, we'll discuss why school-age children are in danger and how we can protect them. Then we'll show you some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest content we found on the internet this week for What in the World Wednesday. And finally, we'll chat about climate propaganda, followed by some interesting Tiger King 2 news in one last thing. All right, let's get this thing going. TPUSA Live from HQ starts now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Once again, welcome to TPUSA Live at TPUSA headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. Rachelle Hernandez is back. You are a TPUSA ambassador. Also, got to get this right, host of the Faith, Facts, and Freedom podcast.
Correct. Thank you for having me.
We have Isabel Brown back as well.
She's back.
On the Frontlines. You saw her this morning too, or this afternoon, just opening the show. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can't get enough Isabel Brown.
Never.
Right?
Never, obviously.
And then also we got Braeden Sorbo joining us for the very first time. You're a TPUSA ambassador, actor, author, and I know you're going to like this, Isabel. Big time TikToker.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Thank
you for having me.
You basically you have millions of followers and tens of millions of views on your stuff, right?
Yeah. So I'm at 1.8 and good reach with my audience.
Wow, it sure seems like it. Well, congratulations on that. I love it. Because I know too, we're on TikTok right now as well. And then Stephen Davis, MAGA Hulk, just had a video that just went off.
Today hit 6 million views in the last 48 hours. Really insane. It's really hilarious, but we love to see it.
It's so wild. But make sure you follow us there too, and then follow Braeden Sorbo because you got to be one of those millions watching that stuff. We're going to dive right on into the daily briefing. So there's a freedom of speech case in Florida. So let's go, Brandon, sweeping the nation. We've talked about it extensively on this show, but this guy here, Marvin Peavy, is hanging a 3-story tall banner that says, "Let's go, Brandon," among some other political banners. And it seems like it's getting the Walton County Commission a little bit iffy about if this is okay or not. But it seems like it's a big freedom of speech case, and it seems like he should be okay to do this. But not only is he doing this, he's getting fined every single day he keeps up this banner. He's getting fined 50 buckaroos each day for displaying that.
It goes to show you exactly why we say, "Let's go, Brandon." I mean, that is just the most ironic situation to me. You go, man, this homeowner. I love to see this display of patriotism, of conservative values, and people just embracing going on the offense instead of going on the defense. From what I can tell, he's not backing down anytime soon.
No.
He plans to just keep paying the fine every single day, and I'm anxious to see how that pans out.
Because I'm guessing if you can afford a 3-story tall banner that says "Let's go, Brandon," 50 buckaroos probably isn't that big of a deal.
Probably not.
What do you think, Brandon?
Probably not. Well, I'm from Florida now. I recently moved.
Oh, I love
Born
it.
and
The free
raised
state of
California.
Florida.
Right? I love it there. And I was kind of shocked to hear this. You know, in Florida, of all places. I was actually just at a concert this past weekend where people were chanting it in the stands. And as we were walking out, my buddies and I, we were just trying to navigate the crowds. Everyone was chanting on the escalator. So it's out there, you know, as we already know. And it's very big as a movement in Florida. So it's kind of surprising when I heard about this. But like you said, if you have a 3-story banner, $50 is enough. And he's promoting the message that he believes in. You know, he's making a stand against kind of this tyrannical county that's really trying to impose these ridiculous restrictions on him. So it's good to know that he's out there supporting his own free speech and kind of promoting everyone to do the same.
Another story we got to cover. I want to get your take on this one, Rachel. I don't know. Are you a big Disney fan?
I can be. I can be.
Obviously, there's been like Disney. They're diving into a little CCP stuff too, and then this one is actually the Shanghai Disneyland. This is what happened. So someone tested positive for COVID that attended Disneyland in Shanghai the day before, and they shut down the entire park for 24 hours. So 34,000 plus visitors inside that Shanghai Disneyland. They had to leave the park and they had to quarantine for 24 hours.
I think I read with this story also all 34,000 of these people tested negative for COVID. Not a single person tested positive, but they're making them quarantine for an additional 24 hours.
Right. Well, I think that's literally like the perfect example of what happens when government comes into play and imposes their control on all the people. Like they're literally imposing their rule on fun. Like how crazy is that?
Once again.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
So I guess the park is majority owned by the government-backed Shanghai Shenmue.
Well, there you go.
So there's definitely some government influence in there. So like, That's not the Disneyland I'd want to go to.
No, that sounds like right to jail, right away.
Goodbye.
Right to jail. Go to
Pirates of the
Disneyland, believe it or
Caribbean?
not,
No,
jail,
straight to
right
jail.
away. Yeah.
Splash Mountain? No, jail. You're not going to Frontierland, you're going to jail land. That's where you're going to. But I guess Disney owns about 43% of that venture too. And the thing that's interesting about so many different places we've talked about is New Zealand, Australia. They had a zero COVID case policy. That's what they were trying to totally just bite it in the butt and get it to zero, which didn't seem like a very good scientific way about going to things. But that's a reason they said they shut it down. What do you think, Brandon?
I mean, it's in China, right? So,
Final
so
take.
at some point it was bound to happen, and I believe, didn't the lady who tested positive for COVID, didn't she get out and then they found out about it, then they locked everyone down?
She went there the day before.
So she's not even, she
wasn't
got out.
there.
Everyone else
Yeah.
is suffering for the one negative test, which is just absurd to me. Like, I mean, look, if you get sick, go home.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going out, you're going to do your own thing, but they're just making every other person locked down and get 2 tests now.
But we're going to be back in 90 seconds talking about, are your kids in danger? See you soon.
Racist thing that is being spread in popular life in America.
Critical race theory is bigoted. It is a lie.
Racism is now being taught to our kids.
Dividing kids based on race, trying to say some are oppressors and some are oppressed is absolutely unacceptable.
CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color.
It's not critical race. It's racism.
Conservatives! Politics is now on TPUSA Live. It'll be here every day in case you want to hear me out along with the rest of the Turning Point USA team. Don't miss out on all the conservative.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country is very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for Bush and Cuban, for car, for life, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Rachel, Isabel, and Braeden. I don't think there's been someone on the show that has better hair than me, but I think we found it.
Wow, John.
The flow is great.
Whoa.
This is coming out of the blue. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I don't give those compliments out very often.
He's
so
very proud of his hair.
You should be. Look at it.
I take a lot of pride in this thing right here. But also, too, we got to talk about protecting our kids right now. We've talked about so much on this show about what's going on in Loudoun County and then how parents are stepping up and how they need to protect their kids because it doesn't seem like school boards, school districts, or the government are doing anything to protect them at all. And then we see some interesting cases like this. So there's a Florida second grader that is facing some disciplinary action for not wanting to wear a mask. So this girl here, this is from the Free Press in Tampa, Florida. A girl named Fiona, an elementary school student in Florida, was suspended a total of 36 days and faced disciplinary action for not wanting to wear a mask and going against the COVID-19 face mask policies of her elementary school. And her first punishment, she had to eat lunch alone in an office hallway. So not only are they just separating these kids, teaching them CRT, we have transgender policies that are hurting kids. And kids, like, this isn't just some sort of policy where it's just like, we don't agree, this is a right and left thing. It's like, no, kids are getting hurt.
Yeah.
Kids are getting raped
in the bathroom.
It's disgusting. So like now too, you have a kid like this, second grader, that's now potentially not going to be able to pass second grade because of all the school days missed because of this mask policy.
Wow.
I think Fiona has more backbone than most Americans. Let me just say that.
Yes, she does. Go
She
Fiona.
does,
Seriously,
yeah.
we are cheering
She's
you
a
on,
shining
girl. Keep
example.
it up. I hope that Governor DeSantis can step in and do something about this because this girl does not deserve to have to repeat the second grade
Well,
because
he
of her
also
insane school district.
He also signed that mandate into order that said schools could not force a student to wear a mask, and here they are violating that right now. It's just absurd to me.
Yeah, and then I know it's saying that, so he made that executive order in July. It made mask wearing optional. And that's the thing too. Some of these kids are in these school districts and they're still pushing this. So like, luckily you have a governor like Governor DeSantis. It's the free state of Florida. There's a reason you moved there. But now they're making it optional. So that doesn't mean though that everybody is just gonna nix the mask policy. And this is what her mom had to say. Unfortunately, the blows just seem to not stop. As she was recently told after completing every assignment her teacher provided her, she is not only failing second grade, but there's no way she could catch up per her teacher.
Even though she did all the work.
She did
and
all
she
the
still
work.
made the effort. And I mean, this is just absolutely so backwards. Meanwhile, a lot of these teachers that are imposing these crazy rules and wanting kids to repeat grades are also going around advocating for getting rid of grades altogether because that's progressive. Minority kids can't get the same grades, probably. We don't know that for sure, but let's just get rid of grading. But if you're a conservative student from a conservative family who doesn't want to wear a mask, you got to repeat second grade. Sorry,
grades hurt
kiddo.
my feelings. I don't know if I told you. They do hurt my feelings.
Well, my grades definitely hurt my parents' feelings. That was for sure. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Just the social aspect of school, I left. But I love how Fiona described why she's doing this. This is not just, hey, like my parents disagree with this or that. Like obviously there's a parental influence here and they're actually teaching her about freedom and rights, and that's how she explained it. So Fiona has changed her priorities a bit and she's on a mission to take back not only her rights, but every American child's constitutional rights from a tyrant school board being operated by a financial expert that has no knowledge of how safely and effectively run the 10th largest school district in America.
Wow.
That just shows
That's
you that
so-
you're
what you
never
said.
too young
Yeah.
to get involved. Like she's a shining example of what every single one of us should be doing. I mean, she's a second grader and she is just killing it.
And that's what I love when we see so many people push back at these school board meetings. There's been a few students that have come up and they are so articulate. They just look like little Charlie Kirks. That's what it looks like. They're just going up there. They are so smart. They're so articulate. And also they are not selfish. Just like you see Fiona here. This is not about her. I guarantee you she talks to so many. The fact that she even has to have discussions with her classmates about this as a second grader.
Sad.
You should just be worried about still trying to color inside the lines. Don't get cooties. And just have a good time and enjoy recess.
Oh, in second grade, I was playing basketball with my friends until I was pulled out and then homeschooled because my teacher was also not effective, but in different ways. But no, it's great to see that she's standing up for what she believes in. You know, we need more students to be doing that, to going to these parent-teacher meetings, like to be going to the school board and fighting against it. I remember I was 14 or so, and I went up and I spoke against a book that they were putting into the curriculum for 7th graders that had softcore pornography in it. And I was sitting there going, I can't read these words to you. How do you expect an English teacher to teach this to 7th graders? It's absurd. And so it's great to hear that more and more students are finally coming and being brave and promoting the ideas of freedom.
That's what I've loved seeing in Loudoun County too, especially with this conviction finally taking place with this sexual assault situation. So many of these students are walking out of class, they're protesting with their school board meetings, they're saying, you know, enough is enough. This is so much bigger than politics. This is about my safety and my ability to go to school and use the bathroom or be in a classroom and not have to worry about being raped accidentally or otherwise, which is their defense strategy here in this case. But this is where it all has to start with students. And we've seen a lot of that on the left with school shootings in particular and the March for Our Lives movement after the Parkland shooting especially. But when young kids, children, can take it upon themselves to take on these leadership roles, to use their voice and to say to the adults who are emotionally, physically, even sexually putting these kids into situations of abuse, I think that's so powerful and really does make a difference.
And it's interesting how the left goes after this too. Like they're just trying to say that, you know, conservatives, first they were just mad about, I know we have this quote here, so this is from MSNBC anchor Chris Hayes. He's like, it's so interesting how conservatives are going after education and school boards, and it seemed like the problem was schools weren't open, and then now they're open, there's like CRT and transgender stuff. It's like, yes, those are all problems. This isn't just shifting into just some new agenda for us. The problem was schools weren't open, kids need to be in school. And if they're gonna be in school, it has to be optional if they're gonna wear masks or not. They have to be able to socialize and grow up and develop in those ways, understanding facial expressions and everything. And then now you have parents that were not only able to see what a school was like and what's going on in the classroom when you have Zoom. It's like, hey, is this actually what's being taught? So I'm going to hang out in the same room as my kid.
Yeah, they were hearing lots of things that alarmed them.
And then now it's like kids are back in school. So like this is an issue, and it's so unbelievably dishonest the way the left just tries to say this is just some like right-wing propaganda. You heard that from President Obama. Like this is just fake right-wing outrage.
Fake outrage. It's a fake phony culture war, I think is what he said was phony culture war. Last night they were even talking about this on either CNN or MSNBC, I'm not sure which one, with the Virginia exit polls saying that people running on a platform of improving education is actually code word for white people don't like racism being taught in schools, aka get rid of CRT. People in general don't like actual racism being taught in schools, not preventing racism, but this whole anti-racist movement that is, ironically, the greatest threat of racism I think our generations have ever seen in America.
Yeah, former Governor McAuliffe just trying to say like, oh, CRT is not taught in schools. Like, what are you talking about here? Like, we have documents.
You blind?
Yeah, and we actually have like video footage of this stuff.
It's because he knew that if parents got a hold of that, he was going to be out, which happened. So
it's so funny how they just think that they can just suppress this kind of stuff, try to tell people all these lies that it's not happening.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to protect a skirt-wearing boy in Loudoun County and try to say, we're going to cover this up, or we're going to try to tell you that didn't happen. Like, if people out there are trying to say that kids aren't in danger, try telling that to the father or the daughter that got raped.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, they're doing it because they keep getting away with it, and they think they can keep getting away with it. That's why they're coming out and they're saying, oh, it doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Because we were down here and they were up here, and there's no way that they're going to get us right up to where they are immediately. So they say something extreme and we go, okay, fine, we'll compromise. And then slowly, little by little, we're compromising all the way up to exactly what they want. And we're getting really close to that point up there, and they're realizing that we're catching on. And so they're trying to, you know, gaslight. Oh, what are you talking about? There's no CRT. It doesn't exist. You're crazy. Like, you think you have a say in your kids' teaching? Who do you think you are? Their parents? Like, that's ridiculous. so it's worked for them in the past, and so that's why they're trying it now. It's ultimately going to be their downfall, and that's what they're finally learning, though.
Yeah, it's like, we don't want to co-parent with you at all. We want a parent. Like, you're not taking over this whole thing. We're going to teach our kids what they should be taught, and there's so many things that are just thrown into schools, and I'm sure that's why you tell people like homeschool is just probably a better option. Like, it's skyrocketed. It's more than doubled over the last year, right?
Yep. I mean, I was homeschooled all the way from 2nd grade to graduation. Wow. I have 2 younger siblings. My brother is 17. My sister just turned 16, which is a problem in itself. I got to start fighting boys off now. It's terrible. But they were kindergarten through home to make a couple friends, and then they were homeschooled. And they have plenty of friends. They have so much social interaction in their lives. And they get everything that they ever need with the curriculum that we do. You know, so I'm a big advocate for homeschooling. My mom speaks on it like everywhere. She's written books about it. So our whole family is very pro homeschooling. And so anyone who asks, I tell them the same thing. You know, the school board is being taken over. And I, as a homeschooler, spoke to the school board. So you don't have to even be forced to learn CRT and all of these terrible things the school board is teaching in order to fight them. You can learn them outside and then go in with an outsider's perspective and combat it.
And I think a way we can combat that is when we have someone like, this is Ayaan Hirsi Ali, hopefully I'm saying that right.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali, yeah,
perfect.
she's awesome.
Yeah, she's a Somalian-born activist, and she was saying this at the National Conservative Conference in Orlando, Florida, how wokeism is way more dangerous than white supremacy. And it's not even that white supremacy is dangerous at all. It's like, no, we should be focused on wokeism, and she had a great video talking about this. We can check that out.
The ideology that threatens us today and has the potential to ruin our societies is a different one. It goes by many names, but I will call it wokeism. What is amazing to me is how race-centered wokeism is. In fact, in an eerie way, it has remarkable similarities with white supremacy. It also ranks human beings into races, with the white-skinned people still on top, except this time as the top oppressors of all other races.
And we've talked about this before too, and I'm sure you've seen from so many different conservative outlets, like there's a victim hierarchy, and then now there's just a hierarchy in general when we're teaching kids in schools, and based on skin color too. Like, if you're this, you are oppressed. If you're this skin color, you're an oppressor. And it's teaching kids at a young age this, and it's teaching them to hate America, and not just hate America, hate each other.
Absolutely. I think it's ironic that leftists hate racism, but they're so obsessed with skin color. Like, all they ever focus on is how much melanin you have or how much you lack. And so that's what determines really, you know, their perspective on things. And unfortunately, it is getting into our school systems, and they're indoctrinating children from a very young age because they know if they can reach them at a young age, they've got the children.
And this isn't even happening just on college campuses anymore,
Right.
which it has obviously for quite some time. But I was reading a story, for example, this week about a 7-year-old who came home from school, she's white, and asked her mom, "Mom, am I evil because I was born white?" And the mom ended up testifying that before her school board. It's just so earth-shattering to me that we are telling an entire generation of little children, this is who you are going to be for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do about it because that's the way you were born. That is the exact opposite of the American dream, which proves that no matter how you were born, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to take risks, if you're willing to do something that nobody else is willing to do, you can turn your dream into a reality. What a starkly different message than what we grew up with in our generation in school. So that's just absolutely terrifying to me, but I'm also curious to hear your guys' take on this. I think the scariest thing that's happening in schools right now when it comes to wokeism is that teachers are very systematically telling kids, your parents can't be trusted. If you want to go by a different gender identity at school, it's fine, we won't tell them. If you want to learn this one thing at school or read a book that your parents aren't okay with or go see a doctor and be prescribed testosterone, which yes, you can do in middle school without your parents' permission during school in the state of California, we won't tell them, don't even worry about it. That's terrifying to me, and I think last night spoke volumes with conservative parents winning school board races all across the country. America is waking up. We're not woke, we're awake, and we're done with this ideology in school.
Yeah, and I'd love to get your take on that, Braeden, too, because this might sound a little drastic, but one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, Blood Diamond, is, you know, when they rip kids away from their parents and they basically just indoctrinate them into this violence, into this idea that we will take care of you. And it seems like there's an aspect of that now in schools where it's like, hey, no, just like Isabel said, I will take care of you. Your parents don't know what's best for you. What do you think?
Oh, entirely. I mean, the easiest way to destroy a nation is to take the new generation away from the parents. Because once you destroy that foundation, you know, because that kid is growing up with the parents, they're learning what the parents know, and the second you rip them away from their parents for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then give them homework that puts them away from the parents, makes them all these other things, the kids don't trust the parents. You know, there are parents who are sitting there going, wow, where did I go wrong? Because you didn't talk to your kids at breakfast. Like, you didn't even sit down and say, how was your day at dinner? You sat and watched the TV. You didn't engage in any way, shape, or form. So your kid learned to trust the state over you. And it's what's destroying the family foundation in America, and it's what's leading to all of these problems that we're having, because kids are learning to resent each other based on their skin color alone. I don't care what anyone looks like. You're either cool or you're not, in general. Right? So, and kids aren't, kids aren't realizing that because the teachers are telling them, and the teachers are taking over the roles of parents.
Yeah, and there's just the left that they're going to keep running on this platform. They're going to lose, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose some more. But coming up next, we got What in the World Wednesday. See you in 90 seconds.
This has all happened before. The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Obviously, school boards are crazy. School districts are nuts. Our world is insane, but no, it's even crazier than that. The internet. Every single week on Wednesday, we got What in the World Wednesday, and we cover some of the wackiest, wildest, and weirdest stuff we found across the interwebs. And I'm sure you, Braeden, you know a lot of the weird stuff on TikTok. You're a big TikToker over there. It's weird.
It is very weird, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and luckily you're not one of the weirdos. So that's why you're able to sit on this couch.
True.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, Braeden is not one of the
TikTok. To be fair, in
weirdos.
Braeden's defense, John, we have to explain TikTok culture to you a lot, so you wouldn't know. Yeah.
There we go.
I already told you. Basically, in TPUSA HQ years, I'm 100 years old. I'm very old. I am the grandpa by now. But we're going to dive into this first one. Greta Thunberg. She loves yelling and she loves saying blah, blah, blah. Check it out.
You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse.
So that's an interesting take there. So it's.
I feel like she's saying what she shouldn't be saying.
I know.
That sounds to me like, is the climate crisis real? At all?
It's like a joke.
I don't
it's
know.
a big joke.
Well, that's what I feel like here. So that was outside of a COP26. It was the climate summit. We're going to cover that in the next segment and how Biden just couldn't stay awake for that. I don't think he'd be able to stay awake for this at all. So President Biden obviously just needs to take a little cat nap. But I feel like there's so much infighting when it comes to climate. And I don't want to give too much away because we have a full segment about that. So you hear something like this and it's just like, I don't know if you're saying what you think you want to say.
It's like the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Well, also, you know, the quote, she said the blah, blah, blah. I was just wondering, does she owe Turning Point? Like, do you guys have that trademark, the blah, 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 for your song and everything? Like,
Seriously.
should she be paying up a little bit?
Yeah.
Or?
So if nobody saw that was from the Student Action Summit in Florida this last year. That was just, that I thought was one of the best intro videos our productions team and Visual Impulse and everybody here has really put together. Events team did a great job with that. And it was so true. It's like all you say is blah, blah, blah. Like nothing you say is substantial from the left, and it's not working. It's not working in Virginia. It's not working with young conservatives. And it's just spreading across the country that blah, blah, blah ain't working, but Let's Go Brandon is effective. We know that for sure. But this next one, this is a fairly sad video. I think the way we talk about how parents should be involved in schooling, and then sometimes we see some bad parenting like this.
This is my daughter.
Hi.
She's 9. We're about to blind react to something.
Okay.
What does that say? Hold on, dear! What does it say?
The COVID vaccine for kids is, so next week should be clear for kids through 5 to 11.
What does that mean for you?
I can go with my friends.
And?
I can finally, go outside, go to stores. I'm excited.
She's overreacting. I was homeschooled. I was let out of the basement like once a week. Come on, it's not that big of a deal. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah,
but that's just...
It's sad too because we've been going through this for about like 2 years, and you never know what people are going through, really. And I feel like just you see something like that where like kids, you should be able to trust your parents, and you should be able to just live your life and go to school and go to the store, and like these are foundational years that I think not only school boards and districts, but like some parents really are taken away from their kids, and they're never going to get this time back.
I mean, it's quite literally mental abuse, and everyone thinks that's normal now. And it's really sad because you see how they're indoctrinating these kids at such a young age. They're making them fearful of a virus that is almost 100% survivable. And I mean, it's really sad. It truly breaks my heart.
There's only been a couple hundred children, all of which have been tragic, by the way. I don't think we want to overstate the tragedy here, but with children in particular, there's been a few hundred people who've died of COVID-19 under the age of 18 in our country. I feel like it's one thing to chuckle at the guy wearing 2 masks alone in his car, but to lock your child in their home for almost 2 years and not let them go outside, I would be calling Child Protective Services on that, frankly. That's not okay.
Yeah, that destroys their mental, their physical, like everything. Like I needed to go outside as a kid. Like kids need exercise, kids need the stimulation, and so the second you take that away from them, it's just, it's horrible. You know, I'm in Florida, it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and I see a family of 4 walking into Walmart, and they have their 2 kids with double masks on, and the kids are 3 and 6, and I'm sitting there going, that is terrible. Like you said, it's like abuse. It's not right. The kids should not be put through that, you know, especially with such a high survivability rate.
Yeah. And you hope some of these kids are actually looking into what Nicki Minaj has to say, what Rihanna has to say, what Kyrie Irving's got to say, and hopefully not listen to this celebrity. Check this out. So we had some weird Halloween costumes, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom. This is what they went as.
Is he supposed to be Dr. Fauci?
I think he's supposed to be Dr. Fauci.
No.
And
Interesting.
That is Katy Perry. And
that looks miserable.
That
just doesn't even look fun.
I never really want to make light of some of these things, but I did see a meme about this that said Carrie Perry carditis.
Oh my god!
And it was that's a rough rough joke that somebody making there. But in general, like, look at how much people are just bowing down to Dr. Fauci in the vaccine, and you have so many people that look to celebrities like this, and hopefully the kid that we just showed is not looking to celebrities like. Also, I just found out that Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry were dating. That's how old I am. Like, it's just so out of touch. But I was talking to everybody yesterday when they were showing me these photos, and I'm like, they're dating?
Yeah.
Not only are they dating, they're dressing up like imbeciles.
I was sad to see the Orlando Bloom thing because, you know, I love those movies that he's in and everything. So it's
Lord of the Rings, some of the best.
Oh, it's terrible. And Katy Perry, she was a pastor's kid, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
kid,
it shows how
way back
Hollywood
when.
can affect people. And so, like you said, we're hoping that little girl from the video isn't necessarily looking up to that side of Hollywood and idolizing it.
This next one too, so if you're just tuning in, this is What in the World Wednesday, and we're showing you some wacky stuff. And this is one of them. Treat your mask like underwear?
Gross.
Look at that. Do not share it. Change it daily. Make sure it's clean. Do not borrow or lend it. I don't know who's sharing their undies. Make sure it fits snug, but not too tight.
Change it daily? We're supposed to do that?
Really?
I wonder what grade this is being shown to for kids at school, because kids are not the most hygienic.
No.
Kids don't do their own laundry. Kids don't usually even pick out their own outfits. Our parents would like lay out our outfits when we were little kids. So I'd be really curious to know which school district and what grade is talking about this.
And we know how kids are too. I guarantee there's a kid that showed up and was like, I can't find my mask, so do I put my underwear on my face?
Great question.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I drank out of hose water as a kid, and my immune system's pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
These kids are putting underwear on their face. I don't know where the.
And this is at the bulletin board at school. This is crazy. But this next one, obviously TikTok, interesting place. This is what this blue-haired lady had to say. Pretty sure it's blue.
So I've had this concept floating around in my head for a while that I'm sure you've heard of if you spend any time on this app at all, because it's been going around like hotcakes, where men are afraid that women will laugh at them while women are afraid that men will murder them. And that's got me thinking about all the encounters with men that I've had in my life. Men that I trust, you know, relatives, partners, where I've held back, where I haven't spoken my full mind about something because of just how conditioned we are to fear men's anger.
I'm just so glad she broke that down. That's what the biggest things that we're dealing with. Also, we found out there are 2 genders in that video too. So like women are most scared about men murdering them, and men are most scared about women laughing at them.
Yeah.
Honey, if you're dating boys that are going to murder you, if you say what's on your mind, you're dating the wrong boys. Like, I just think it's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be this cultural, systematic thing. Date better. I mean, it's that simple.
Literally. And then we have to wrap up with probably the best one we found this week. This one's about no female last names. This is what this guy had to say from his bed.
My girlfriend and I were talking about, hypothetically, if we got married, would you take my last name? Obviously, no, we're feminists. That's not what we're trying to do. But then I was like, okay, so you're gonna keep your last name, which is actually, that's actually your dad's last name. So you could take your mom's last name, but that's actually her dad's last name. And it goes on and on it goes. And I realized there's no such thing as a female last name. Like, they just simply don't exist because
I am oppressed. Thank you.
That's what we're going to wrap up with. Coming up next, we're going to talk about climate propaganda, the summit, so much more. See you in 90 seconds.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. questions.
Conservatives! Politics is now on TPUSA Live. It'll be here every day in case you want to hear me out along with the rest of the Turning Point USA team. Don't miss out on all the conservative.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. If you just missed What in the World Wednesday, we finished off with this video about the patriarchy. that might be the new dance move, but it's funny, you had somebody sharing that like, oh, there's no women last names, but you had a take, and I know I want to hear your personal experience too before we dive into a little bit of the climate propaganda and what happened at the climate summit.
Well, it's just not even true. In some cultures, they do have different last names for men and women. Yeah. Like daughters of a family will get a different last name than sons of a family. In some cultures, your last name is your first name and your first name is your last name. So I would just say that's very white-centered of you to assume, English-centered of you to assume that everybody's the same way. I also love how he goes, hypothetically, if we ever got married. Like, we're not actually ever going to get married because marriage is stupid. And he's probably been dating this girl for like, I don't know, 10 years and he's never going to marry her. My gosh. He's just a little like, feminine for my taste.
It's one of the two, 10 years, 72 hours.
Yeah. It's a little different extreme.
Come on, yeah. I actually had this happen to me. A couple months ago, I was dating a girl, and 2 weeks into the relationship, she calls me. She's like, I'm mad at you. I was like, uh-oh, what did I do?
That's never good.
This time, right? Like, terrible. she goes, you're going to want to homeschool our kids. And I'm like, whoa, it's been 2 weeks. That's strike one. Second one, she calls me a week later. She goes, so if we get married, you're going to take my last name, right?
No.
3 weeks in, all right, we're done. That's too much.
You're done.
I cannot.
You're done.
No homeschool.
How to lose a girlfriend
your last
in
name
10
or
days.
your dad's last name, I guess. Or it was so bizarre.
Yeah, girls, if you want to get broken up with by a conservative guy, say those things.
Yeah. Immediately.
Immediately. First 2 weeks in.
You're dropped. But let's get into some climate propaganda. So we just had the climate summit, the COP26. You saw Greta Thunberg, that last segment, just saying blah, 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 just saying stuff about ARSAs and everything, just climate crisis, climate change, everything. It just doesn't seem like anybody is on the same page. But you see people like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
My favorite.
She said that by 2038, it all could be over. Check out this video.
Some of us have to actually live the future that you all are setting on fire for us. By 2028, crop yields are already projected to begin to fail, with famine beginning to hit the world's most vulnerable populations. By 2038, current U.S. drought, fire, and extreme heat trends could potentially make whole regions of the United States unlivable if we continue the trends that lobbyists are trying to have us pursue.
Fear tactics.
Climate change is not a joke, John.
Sorry.
Some of us
I'm so sorry.
have to listen to this girl talk in this tone all of the time about things that could happen. But of course it never will, ever. I mean, we've heard this rhetoric over and over and over again. Our parents were told that there was going to be a great cooling and the whole world is going to be frozen in ice and we won't be able to live
woolly
anymore.
mammoths are coming
We
back.
were told
that would have been cool.
warming
I'm still disappointed in
yeah, I know, that was the big thing.
That, come on.
Then we were told global warming's going to kill all the polar bears and the seas are going to rise and everything's going to be underwater. And now they're saying that fires are going to burn everything down, but it's actually not global warming anymore. It's climate change. It's just getting more extreme in both directions. That's that's not to say that the climate isn't changing. And I love when they say conservatives don't believe in any of this crap and they're just these anti-science, science deniers. But to say over and over again, the world's going to be over in 10 years, then 11 years, then by 2038, then by 2060. Okay, I mean, if that's the case, take me now, Jesus, because eventually it's going to happen. But just be okay with that. Don't use fear-mongering in this weird monotone voice that none of us love to listen to.
Yeah, and speaking English sentences, that was kind of hard for me to understand. I'm going to be honest.
It was a lot.
It's going to end. Well, it might end.
It could end.
From what I'm reading here.
It could possibly
It will.
end.
No,
The
it
crops.
could.
They do the thing with the crops that could not yield.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Go. We got it.
Yeah, and then everyone's going to starve, and then if we don't do this or pass this major spending bill or something like that, it's
We don't spend
we're all dying.
$3,000 trillion right now.
Yeah.
We will all die.
Well, it's a perfect way to raise money. Like, how else than to instill fear into the people? I mean, I can't think of a better plan than that. And these are the same people who take private jets and fly across, the country around the world. But yeah, here they are complaining about it.
Yeah, and that's something that people have been pushing back on with President Biden's administration.
Yeah.
So he's saying about a third of his cabinet went out to Scotland for the climate summit. And so that was the COP26. So Fox News was reporting that there was a massive entourage. There was over 40 cars in that entourage heading out there. And then also you had Senator John Becerra of Wyoming. This is what he had to say. He's also a ranking member of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. He said it's hypocritical for federal employees to be working remotely here and then going out to attend the summit.
Yeah.
And then just all the fuel and all the emissions to get out there. Because they're saying that there was about 400 private jets in total in one day, and that emitted and blasted out about 13,000 tons of carbon dioxide. And
right.
they were using about the same amount of carbon as almost 2,000 Britons use each year. Whoa.
Wow. I'm also confused. I thought a third of the Biden administration was on vacation.
Oh, no,
and now they're all going to this the summit.
Oh, they're
different
on vacation.
third,
They're on
baby.
vacation in
Different
Scotland.
third. I hope the ones that went actually stayed awake and could pay attention enough to take in all of the important information to bring back home. I doubt it, given what our president of the United States did, falling asleep. But
well, Greta has a very soothing voice. She kind of sings.
Blah, blah.
It's like a lullaby.
But we actually have that video of President Biden attending the COP26, and this is what he did. He fell asleep.
This magnificent act. This conference is one of the most important meetings in history. You have the chance to make decisions and reach agreements which will affect the lives of generations to come. You are in a position of extraordinary power. You.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
We're moving. We're up.
But there were so many great takes. Because sometimes you'd see like conservative commentators who would be out and just like bash him as they should. He's just asleep at the wheel this entire time that he's been
Literally.
in office. And then they're also saying there's a few other people saying like, well, I don't really blame him. I'd fall asleep at that that thing too.
Also, it's better than pooping your pants. So I think this beats the Vatican, probably, which is good. So we'll take sleeping, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough time for
tough
President Joe. Yeah, it's very spooky.
He should
time.
just be put in a hole.
It's very
that was a good one.
But this is something so many people have brought up too. It's just like, if you say that the climate crisis is the most important thing we should be worried about, how in the world do you fall asleep? And I think we all have to agree on that, where it's like, hey, if this is what our focus is going to be on right here, right now, we're going to put all these funds in here. And then also saying that they're thinking about just adding just different parts of the government to really just focus on the climate crisis. We're taking funds away from other things.
Not like we have things to focus on by any means.
No, not a border, not an Afghanistan withdrawal, not a supply chain crisis. No. We got to focus on a climate crisis. And when we do focus on it, good night.
Sweet dreams.
Yeah, it's like a nice little lullaby for President Biden. But I want to make sure everyone gets this info too. So like Daily Mail was saying that President Biden and his staff estimated to generate 2.2 million pounds of carbon during this trip to Europe alone.
I just can't take any of these people seriously, like at all. I can't take celebrities who promote this seriously when they go on gazillion-dollar private jet tours all across the world to drink champagne and have black tie galas and travel all of the time, emitting carbon, destroying the environment, using labor that causes carbon emissions. None of it makes any sense to me. So, I mean, I, for one, do believe we have a responsibility to care for our environment. This earth was a gift to us from God, from my opinion, and we have a responsibility to take care of it. That doesn't mean you need global government overhaul to make that happen. That doesn't mean you have to throw black tie galas in Scotland and fly your private jets to go there and talk about it over and over and over again multiple times a year. That doesn't mean you need people like Leonardo DiCaprio to make videos about it and post all over the internet about how we're all going to die in the next 10 years.
Leo, just make good movies. That's all we want from
we're past the good movie stage. I think we've moved beyond. Oh, those were the days, man. But I mean, I just can't. I'm done with this. I think every American is done with this. It's so overplayed. It's so drawn out. It's so shallow and such a facade, and it's just gross to me at this point.
And then Morgan Zager's actually put together a great live feed article about this too, talking about COP26. So you can go to tpusa.com/live feed to read some more about this. But something I think we need to focus on too is this U.S. versus China debate now. So when you have President Biden, his administration reportedly going to add a climate policy czar and saying that climate crisis is the biggest thing we have to worry about, and you have China that are sending off low orbit nuclear missiles right now. And I think we're losing the battle now. We're starting to focus on climate when we have a new superpower. I just don't think that we're respected or feared anymore. And especially too when you hear the President of the United States start talking like this, that only empowers our enemies. And China is not our friend. No matter what General Milley is going to say, they are not our friends, and they are looking to take over. And they want to take over these next 4 years.
Yeah, well, we've literally become the laughingstock of the world. We used to be this global superpower, and no longer do we have that title. And like you said, we're here concerned about pronouns, your title, you know, your skin color, and all these different things, while China's over here becoming stronger every single day. I mean, they have immense nuclear powers, and so does, you know, other countries in the Middle East like Iran, but we're here, you know, joking around and pretending that we're still in the game when we're not.
Well, I mean, China is taking kids away from their parents and then removing their access to media and knowledge, and then just feeding them the information directly and training them. They're building a super army. I mean, have you seen the ads for our army versus the ads for other countries, like the Russian ads for their army? It's just insane. It's very stoic and be strong, fight for your country, all this stuff. And then our ads are just weak.
It's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
It's all about like identity politics, diversity, and inclusion. So like, how is that going to scare our enemies?
It's
like
not.
they don't care what your pronouns are. They don't care what gender you go by. They don't care if you want to be known as an anamorph, cisgender, whatever. Like you are their enemy. And they're there to destroy you.
Well, not to mention, if we really cared about the Earth, why wouldn't you stand up to China? Because they are the single greatest contributor to carbon emissions of any country in the world. They offput more carbon emissions than every other country in the world combined. Combined.
Oh, yeah.
And meanwhile, nobody says anything about that. China is the great future. It's our ally. It's our friend. We can never say anything bad about China ever. What is that? Where did that come from? If you're really serious about taking leadership on any issue, and whether or not I agree with it, if you want climate change to be the issue that's your legacy for your presidential administration, why would you not say something about China and stand up to China in that regard? It doesn't make any sense.
Because you have to think they're just in bed together with this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like that's, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like everyone's terrified of them, and I think we were respected for a solid 4 years under President Trump. And you know, he comes China. Like we always make the joke, China. But they were scared, and they respected us. You know, there's times where it's like, I'm always going to relate things to sports. Like you have guys on the field or the court, and they absolutely hate each other, but there's a respect factor there. And I think that's where it was, where we understood China's superpower, and they understood we were a superpower. But now, they don't see us as a threat whatsoever. They're not showing up to the climate summit here, and they're going to just only continue to take advantage of these next 4 years.
Yeah, it's no longer you're my opponent, you're my enemy, but I respect you. It's you're my enemy. I'm going to destroy you. You know, and I made a video on that once. It was my first big ban on TikTok because I made a video talking about China. I said, I asked my friend in China what he thinks about what the government's doing and everything. He said he can't complain.
Wow.
Took him 5 minutes and it was deleted. And my page was just striked. for about 4 months straight, and that just it shows the censorship that goes on, and it shows how much influence China has. And this was after TikTok was bought by an American company, so it shows how much power they still have, in America today, because they don't respect us.
Yeah,
they don't care.
And then I want to wrap up with this. I just found out about carbon offsets the other day. I know we had somebody in our office talking about, if you don't know about these at all, it's basically like you go and you take a flight and it'll just tell you, all right, this amount of carbon's been emitted on your flight. So you want to help out now? Like plant like 10 trees. Or here's how you can help.
Actually, you can redeem this too with your status on airlines. I just upgraded to new status for American because I fly a lot for work. And they asked me if I wanted to pick from certain options, and you could get more miles, you could get more upgrades or something. And one of the options was offset the same amount of carbon as you fly every year. Like our company will do green things for you.
And there's no evidence that it actually works either. I think it's a total guilt trip too. So like sometimes you'll go to like a restaurant or a store or a drive-through or something like that. It's like, oh, you want to donate to go to this, and it's just like, all right, well, why don't you guys actually, as your company, try to like think better ways to like not emit as much carbon. But in general, the climate summit was an absolute disaster, and it's only going to become more of a disaster if we don't start taking some of these other things serious and stop fear-mongering. But coming up in 3 minutes, we're going to talk about Tiger King 2.
Oh boy.
Carol Baskin. We're going to talk about her lawsuit. We'll see you guys for one last thing.
In these United States of America, this great country of ours, we American Indians, we can be anything we want to be, except American Indians.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
What we call huerte. Huerte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good. Just like the Nazi concentration camps.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity. That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates.
I moved from the poorest county in America, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, to the richest area in the country, the Navajo Indian Reservation. There is no difference. The poorest and richest reservations in our nation suffer from identical problems. This is not anything new. This is an everyday occurrence in all tribal governments.
So my life and my tale and my truth has been to fight socialism, and I'm hoping that I can wake up as many Navajos as I can to tell them that you can do this, even if I have to fight you to save you. And I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people. Even though they are so harsh on social media and they completely hammer at me, I tell them, I'll be here even if I have to fight you to save you.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got time for one last thing. We're at TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. We got Rachelle, Braeden, Isabel Brown. Carol Baskin. What did she wax him? We had to do
all day. It's just been on a loop in my head.
We had to do a little TikTok stuff for you. Since Braeden was here, we had to.
I'm
just
honored. I feel like
bad
knowledge.
reenactment of those. That had to have been like my favorite TikTok over the basic quarantine during the pandemic time. And also a lot of people, you probably watched Tiger King because obviously there was nothing better to do than watch this garbage on TV. And what's happening now is Tiger King 2 is coming out. And not only is that coming out November 17th, Carol Baskin is saying that the production company was using some footage that she did not give the okay on. But before we dive into some more of that, there's parts of this trailer we just can't show you on TPUSA Live, so we found a little bit of this one that we could show you. Check it out.
If I have to make a deal with the devil, I will make a deal with the devil.
As you can imagine, there was some really weird stuff in that trailer, so you can watch that just like any other time. We're not going to show you here because there's kids watching. But Tiger King was just off the wall. And then now they got Tiger King 2, and Carol Baskin is saying, hey, production company, you guys are using footage that I did not give the okay on. But it looks like she's in that trailer too. If I had to make a deal with the devil and she had her
with the
tiger earrings,
yeah.
So I'm confused.
She probably signed some consent forms when they started filming, so I would probably assume that they have the rights to use any of this footage, whether it's savory or not savory when it comes to your character. How interesting how reality TV has evolved, though. When we were growing up, it was Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and Dance Moms. That was a great show, growing up
Teen
as a
Mom,
dancer.
I watched Teen
Now
Mom.
it's like weird tiger fetishes, and Tiger King has just taken over the entire world. It's crazy.
Disrespectful.
I had a hard time watching. I was like, what is this?
I never watched it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm like the weird 1% of our population that
never
has
watched
not
this
seen
show?
a single
I'm
episode.
within
I've
that
seen like
1%.
clips that I've seen on the internet. I've never watched a full episode.
No, neither have I.
Are we
And I
serious?
don't feel like I'm losing anything in my life.
I did not think I was going to be the only one on these couches that's watched Tiger King.
Yeah, I've seen a lot
I'm
of
not going to
clips
say it was
online.
the best life choice ever.
I
but-
never saw the desire, I guess, to watch this show. It just seemed weird.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It was very weird.
Like you say, there was literally nothing better to do during quarantine. Like I went for walks outside. I was in Colorado. I went hiking. I enjoyed my life. I don't know.
I clearly did not enjoy my life compared to every single one of these people on the couch. But I mean, your walks and your runs and your workouts can only be so long, and then you're
They're
sitting
called
at
books, John.
You should read some more of those. I did not get into the MAGA doctrine or any of those great novels at all during quarantine.
Well, maybe I'll have to watch it so that I can watch 2.0 Tiger King. You might convince me at this point.
No, you really should, because it is absolutely out of control stuff. It is wild.
It
but
doesn't sound alluring.
Yeah, I know. I need a little more.
I need some actual convincing here. You guys tell us in the comments why we should watch it.
Please, because it is seriously, it's one of the wildest stories. It really is. And you have some of the most interesting characters too. Like that's what it is. It's not just about the Tiger King. It's not just about Carol Baskin. Everybody working at that park/zoo, like literally are like zoo animals themselves. It is out of control. Like the extortion that's going on.
Now I'm starting to get a little
on my flight back, save a
selling
couple
is getting
episodes, prep myself.
Oh yeah, but one thing that I think should be an absolute easy sell is America Fest.
Heck yeah.
America
Definitely.
Fest, that is going to be the biggest patriotic party you've ever been to. We have some of the biggest country artists in the entire world. Russell Dickerson, Brantley Gilbert, Ray Lynn, and we're going to announce some more too, because we have some great speakers as well. We had our first speaker drop, Tucker Carlson, Jesse Waters is going to be there, Candace Owens, might have heard of her. It's going to be a lot of fun. You need to get tickets. Go to tpusa.com/AmericaFest. What are you most excited about?
Oh
for
my
America
gosh,
Fest?
probably the concerts. I've been saying for a long time with our events that it'd be really cool if we could do some sort of musical element with them, kind of like a music festival. And I love that we're finally giving this a shot. From what I've heard, there are going to be multiple nights with multiple artists.
Confirmed.
And concert time, so I'm super excited for that, and I think it's just going to bring an entirely new demographic to TPUSA events that's just never been there before.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of TikTokers there.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to to seeing who shows up in terms of TikTok, because there are a lot of TikTokers who are more like hidden, you know, they're closeted like they are in Hollywood with acting and stuff, but there's a lot of them who might come to this event. I've actually spoken to quite a few of them. But I am also looking forward to the concerts. I mean, I was at a concert a week ago. I love going out and just kind of having a good time, so it's going to be a blast.
Oh yeah, once again, you got to go to tpusa.com/AmericaFest, and you can use a special promo code JON. Get the H out of John. J-O-N for 25% off.
You're gonna take all the credit, John.
I'm taking all the credit.
Isabel also.
No.
I'm just kidding.
If you want to use Isabel too, you can, but I think John.
We all want you there, regardless of who's
You'll get 25% off. But coming up next, we got Smash with MAGA Hulk, and then On the Frontlines. We will see you guys tomorrow.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country is very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for bus and Cuban, for car, for drive, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
Never before in American history has so much of our culture taken place through a screen. In the digital era, and especially during a pandemic, our relationships, media, entertainment, and education are all delivered to us through our phones and computers. So if we're serious about winning America's culture war in the conservative movement, we have to go where the culture is, on social media. In this episode of On the Frontlines, we're covering the digital fight for America's future on campus at the University of North Alabama, Wesleyan College, the University of Washington, Juilliard, and even the Supreme Court of the United States. We'll sit down with one of our outstanding Turning Point ambassadors who's making a difference online, and meet a California professor spreading leftist propaganda all over the internet. All this and more, I'm Isabel Brown, and this is On the Frontlines. On campus, the left tries to silence us.
There's a lot of liberal indoctrination.
Universities don't stand for objective truth.
Insulting us, threatening us.
We are on the front lines.
Hey guys, my name is Kangmin Lee. It's like Kingman, but you switch the vowels. And I am a Turning Point USA ambassador, a social media influencer, speaker, and commentator. Recently, I was fired from my job because of the conservative beliefs I shared on social media, namely being against the vaccine mandates and being very pro-Second Amendment and believing that we should have the right to keep and bear arms. And it is never easy being a conservative in today's day and age, but I believe that we need to fight and double down because our beliefs are actually more popular than you would believe. So, my name is Kangmin Lee, and I am on the front lines.
Please welcome to the show one of our rock star TPUSA ambassadors, Kangmin Lee. Kangmin, I'm so excited to have you on the show. You do some incredible work with our TPUSA ambassador team. We do a lot of work together with Students for Life, but I know your journey to really find your voice and build a following on social media started for you in college. Walk us through what that looked like a little bit.
Yeah, so actually it was my last semester of college when I became conservative. So throughout college I was pretty liberal. And then it was my last semester of college when I realized the media lies and the slandering and the smears around conservatives and Trump, President Trump. And then I realized, wow, I dug into it and I became conservative. And I was actually pretty quiet. So I was pretty quiet because I knew all my friends were liberal and they're very outspoken liberal, posting about BLM and social justice, transgenderism, all that stuff. So I started a separate Instagram account and I just started to post, and it was private because I was working for a corporate company. And then I realized in October, November, I was like, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all the way. Because I know there's a lot of Asians out there too who are conservative, but they're just so scared because there aren't Asian conservative voices. So I started to speak out and I started to make content, and then people started to find it, and then now I'm here.
As you have built a following and generated such an incredible audience, you're approaching 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Just passed it.
You just passed it today.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is great news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And about 50,000 followers on TikTok. What type of content were you feeling inspired to share with people?
So the kind of content that I put out, whether it's, you know, comedic skits or whether it's factual infographics or just, you know, pictures of me with a long caption, everything is just to, you know, galvanize and invigorate people to fight, because right now, like, we are in the fourth turning, and we are the generation today that will determine whether or not we have a country.
As our world has transitioned so severely to an online platform in the time of COVID-19, online content has never been more important than it is right now. And you talk a lot about these traditional values online, Christianity, having a faith in something bigger than our society, really rooting yourself in marriage and a family. Why do you feel so inspired to share that type of content, and what drives you in those areas?
Because it's the key to prosperity. And so, you know, life is suffering, and Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this, but that's just a guarantee in life. But then what gives you meaning? What gives you purpose? And it's a lot of these traditional values. And what we see today is a war on these traditional values, because nefarious actors in Hollywood and big tech and our government and academia, entertainment, everywhere, they don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to be fulfilled, and they want to be the reason why you live, right?
Yeah. After graduation, you have stayed very vocal and even gotten more vocal about your most interpersonal values and beliefs, especially on social media. How has that impacted your real world life, particularly in the job market? Has it been difficult to find a job, to keep a job? I know there's a story from this week that you and I talked about before the interview. Would you mind sharing some of that with us?
Yeah, so I just got fired.
Still heartbroken, by the way.
I just got fired, so I worked for a pharma company, and so I was pretty quiet about it. Obviously, there's a social media policy with that company, so if I shared anything about the company, and then the only thing I shared about the company is that they imposed a vaccine mandate, and I'm going to oppose it. I started to speak out against the vaccine mandates, and I started to speak out at the company as well, and then they saw me as a threat. Like, that's just what it is.
A violent threat, if I remember from your Instagram Live. Why did they say you, of all people, who, by the way, is the least violent person that I know, posed a violent threat to the company?
They said that I posed a reasonable violent threat to the company because I said on my social media, I will fight like hell against the vaccine mandates. But I clearly said in the caption underneath that, start conversations, talk to people, get the information out there, don't be silenced. No call to violence whatsoever. And then they said, oh, there's this one comment on my other post that was not on that post. And I said, hey, now's a good time to buy a gun. And then they're like, they equated
so two completely different issues.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, based on these posts, we have come to the conclusion that you pose a reasonable violent threat, and this is an egregious policy infraction, and you go against our company policy, and we fired you.
What completely baffles me about your story from this week, and really over the last few years working in science, we're both from a science background, which is awesome. You were just advocating for something that scientists forever have been passionate about, and that is medical freedom, the ability to decipher what is objective truth and make those decisions for oneself. I have yet to ever meet a scientist until this last year or so that was opposed to medical freedom, and now all of a sudden asking the right questions, going after the data and really analyzing that on a deeper level is frowned upon, and even find an opportunity for you to get completely fired for your job. Knowing all of that, and knowing that science has so dramatically changed over the last few years, would you still go back and make the same posts about medical freedom on your social media, knowing it ended in you losing your job?
Oh, 100%. I mean, absolutely. Questioning science is science. That's the whole point of science. You have a hypothesis and you test it, you question it, and then if your hypothesis was wrong, then you change it. But then they establish the science, and then we say, hey, no, you're wrong. And then once they can't hold on to that narrative any longer, they keep shifting the goalpost. And I'm not here for it. And I will always, always, always stand up for medical freedom because I care about my fellow Americans. And ultimately, again, I don't want to raise a family where they have to get the 30th COVID booster shot in order to get a burger from Shake Shack.
You have been so inspiring in the last few months, courageously posting everything that you believe in and encouraging people to wake up online. And that digital medium is so important now more than ever before, because we have an opportunity as individuals and even independent journalists, so to speak, to reach so many people all at once outside of the people controlling the narrative. What messaging do you have or advice do you have for viewers of the show if they are interested in starting to grow a following on social media? Where do they start? What can they run after? How can they use social media as a tool to tell the truth?
I think Charlie said this in either back in July or in December, but he said that we're all influencers. We're all influencers to a certain extent. I know that word kind of became like this cool thing, like, oh, like this social media influencer with all these followers, but the most impact that you can have and the most contributions, I guess the biggest contribution and most meaningful, significant contributions you can have to this world is to change your local communities in your home. Be a loving father, mother, brother, sister, whatever you are in your family, right? Take care of your family members, make sure they know the truth. And then also in your local communities, in your church, in your school, anywhere you are, make sure you're changing hearts and minds. Grab a coffee with a friend, love them, show them that you're listening to them when they're misinformed, show them the truth about what's going on in the world. And then also twofold, we've got to be loud on social media because like you said, we live in a digital age. We have to be loud and we have to be vocal because we want to change the culture and we want to put pressure on our elected representatives. We want to put pressure on these huge corporations and let them know, hey, we will not buy our products. Hey, we will not engage in this because, they always follow the money. So they're going to do what the money, where the money goes. And then so they will listen to us. So we have to be loud on social media, not only to, change the direction of this country from like a top-down perspective with all these bureaucrats, but also to change hearts and minds. And so again, the approach is twofold: be a light in your community, but also be a light on social media.
You are about to embark in a new season of your life, a bit unexpectedly, but you're continuing to use your voice on social media. Can we expect anything from you in the next few weeks and months with your voice online?
So now that I have more free time, definitely going to be more on YouTube and making more long-form content because most of the content I do right now is very short-form, Instagram, Twitter, but definitely got to deep dive into a lot of topics, especially when it comes to Asian politics and like the Asian American experience, because Asian Americans, we are the fastest growing voter bloc in this country proportionally. And so to be able to win over Asian Americans, to show them the merits of conservatism and show them how they're being completely duped by the left. So stay tuned for that, and that's what they can look forward to. Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to see what all of that is going to look like in the next few weeks, and we're so grateful that you took the time to be here on the program with us today. Thank you for everything that you're doing, Kangmin, and I know the best is yet to come for you. So thanks for joining us on The Frontlines.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, we have more crazy stories of leftists infiltrating higher education in our state of campus. Don't go anywhere. This is On The Frontlines. Do you remember as a kid watching WALL-E, where thousands of people on spaceships zoned out 24 hours a day staring wide-eyed at a screen? I do, and I specifically remember thinking that would never happen in real life. Well, here we are in 2021, at a time when screens are ruling the world. As every aspect of our culture becomes more connected to the digital space, so has the culture war, and it's never been more true for American higher education and today's college students. Today, we're scrolling through the craziest stories from the front lines of education online. Trust me when I say the propaganda online is as textbook commie as it gets. It's time for your State of Campus. Conservative voices on social media have been considered controversial for some time now, but today there are off-screen consequences for those who dare to challenge the left's narrative online. This year, the president of the Student Government Association at the University of North Alabama faced calls for his resignation after he posted his religious views regarding the LGBT community on his personal social media. Jake Statham reposted a photo of a shirt that featured a rainbow and the words, "Born this way, you must be born again," on his Instagram story. Immediately, chaos ensued on campus, calling for Jake's resignation, including the creation of a Change.org petition, which said, while people are entitled to their own personal beliefs, as the SGA president of a university with an active LGBTQIA+ community, Jake Statham needs to show he is capable of protecting the interests of all students. As long as our SGA president is openly homophobic, it would be impossible for UNA to truly be a safe space for the LGBTQIA+ community. So clearly he is not entitled to his own personal beliefs and not entitled to his personal freedom of religion, but is entitled to only post things on his personal social media that are accepted by all. I'm sorry, but posting a controversial shirt doesn't just automatically create a dangerous place for minority groups on campus. If you dislike someone's shirt, feel free to tell them, but don't cancel them over it. Look, whether you agree with Jake's position or not, the response to a single 15-second Instagram story on someone's personal social media account should not be an immediate calling for their cancellation. Makes me really wonder if we're just entitled to hate and censor anyone who dares to say something controversial. You know what's worse than being forced to resign from student government? Being expelled from your university for a racist social media post that you never even posted in the first place. Georgia's Wesleyan College recently made the insane decision to expel a student for allegedly, keyword here, sharing a social media post containing the N-word. The school's president, Vivia Fowler, said on the morning they learned of the post, they launched an investigation and expelled the student that afternoon, giving her the right to appeal. Of course, the student did appeal because it turns out the post wasn't even made by the student. Instead, it was someone else posing as a Wesleyan College student with a fake account on social media. Campus hate has gotten so bad that school leadership automatically assumes that conservative students are always responsible for hateful acts and posts. The nerve, the nerve. The school immediately backtracked and reinstated the young woman at the university, but they also used the situation, of course, as an opportunity to tout their diversity efforts. They said reinstating the student will not deter us from doing our part to denounce racism and hate. We are proud of our diverse student body. When it comes to diversity of thought, though, Wesleyan is about as diverse as a white girl reading Nicholas Sparks on the beach while sipping a pumpkin spice latte. Want to know what's just about as basic as that? Leftist professors in leftist universities. Gross. Up next is our Professor Watch List. We all know how bad indoctrination has gotten on campus, but just as leftist professors have become emboldened to lie about conservatives on campus, they've now taken their propaganda online. Lars Meshack, a professor of history at Fresno State University, is no exception. Lars has publicly called for the execution of both former President Donald Trump and all conservatives on his Twitter. Of course, this type of content is allowed to be posted, but President Trump is prohibited from posting anything. Makes sense in this upside-down world. This college professor actually tweeted, "Has anyone started soliciting money and design drafts for a monument honoring the Trump assassin yet?" But wait, there's more. He also tweeted, #the resistance, #ethnic cleansing. Justice equals the execution of 2 Republicans for each deported immigrant. Just imagine for a moment if a conservative professor had said this about a liberal. It wouldn't be a tweet, it'd be a croak. The outrage would break Twitter. Social justice snowflakes everywhere would flood every feed with regurgitated memes about systemic racism and white supremacy. Phew! I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And that's the hypocrisy we're up against. I'd say Professor Meshack's tweet is shocking, but since the left has already normalized the murder of children, it's no wonder they get away with tweets calling for executions of conservatives. Lars Meshack, you're on our list. And all you other educators out there, keep it up, and you just might make our Professor Watch List. Jumping back on campus, the insanity continues at the University of Washington-Tacoma, where a new initiative has been launched on campus to develop a tool that scans Twitter posts for hate speech or misogyny, because there's nothing that understands humans better than artificial intelligence. The 2 professors spearheading the creation of this tool say they're interested in using artificial intelligence techniques that try to grasp meaning or categorize natural language into some specific pre-assigned categories. This tweet is misogynistic, or that one is offensive toward immigrants. Can someone say Big Brother? I guess censorship of posts that go against the narrative just isn't enough anymore. We actually have to prevent these posts from going up in the first place through using AI. Really sounds like a free society to me. Let's just keep creating more ways to silence speech. Maybe one day we won't need to talk at all because the computers will just decide that everything that comes out of our mouths is offensive. I am convinced that leftists have never seen or read science fiction, by the way, because if they did, they'd learn that when it comes to robots patrolling society, things never end well for humanity. Ever seen I, Robot 2001, A Space Odyssey, and The Terminator? Or how about Avengers Age of Ultron? You know what else never ends well for humanity? Slavery. Who's the only group of people perpetuating the topic of slavery? The left. Ibram X. Kendi, step aside, because Juilliard now gives tutorials on how to be a racist. The Juilliard School. Yeah, the Performing Arts University in New York recently hosted an online slave experience during a diversity, equity, and inclusion workshop called Slavery Saturday in an attempt to advance what they call anti-racism. But you'll see no difference between this and blatant racism as we unpack this story. An auditory experience of enslavement for students, which included audio clips from a slave auction scene from a television series and a historic chant that repetitively yells the N-word, was played for students at the university. Is this supposed to be progressive? Also, what's next? Sacrilege Sunday? Woman-hating Wednesday? I can keep this up all day. On a more serious note, though, naturally and expectedly, black students at the university were traumatized. Due to their complaints, Juilliard immediately backtracked and has been apologizing ever since. They've said, "We deeply regret that the materials used in the auditory exercise were not screened in advance, and that once the exercise was occurring, it was not stopped." You don't say. Reminder. We live in a world where educated adults are afraid that Dr. Seuss characters might look racist. But reimagining slavery, a literal crime against humanity, is totally fine at a school where people do ballet. Based on these stories, it may seem like the left is dominating the culture war online, but we're wrapping things up today with some great news from none other than the Supreme Court of the United States. This past summer, SCOTUS issued an 8-1 ruling in the Mahanoy Area School District v. BL that the content shared by students off campus on social media is protected by the First Amendment. Campus Reform reports that BL, the plaintiff, who chose to remain anonymous, sued her school district after her school kicked her off the cheerleading squad due to a profane rant about the school that she posted on her Snapchat. After making the junior varsity team instead of varsity, BL used a 4-letter word in reference to the school during her rant, which Justice Breyer responded to, saying it might be tempting to dismiss BL's words as unworthy of the robust First Amendment protections discussed herein, but sometimes it is necessary to protect the superfluous in order to preserve the necessary. How many times a day does someone say they hate their school? Should I be banned from school for expressing my anger after I just went through sweat and tears in tryouts only not to make the team I worked so hard for? I get it if BL was like 10 and her parents were telling her not to swear, but this is a teenager just trying to blow off some steam. I'm sorry that the school is offended, but do you want all your students to be happy and grand every single day when they're not? They will all literally turn into psychos. Congrats for BL for winning the case and proving that you can use your First Amendment as you see fit. Way to stand up and fight against social media censorship. You have proven that schools cannot discriminate based on what you post online. To all you students out there, do not stay silent when your campus tries to make you silent. No matter what, you will always still have your First Amendment, and no deranged leftist professor can take that away from you. Now that's a state of campus. As the digital world has begun to dominate the real world, what happens online and on social media has never been more impactful for the future of American culture. Colleges and high schools alike will do everything they can to indoctrinate students online, spread lies about conservatives on social media, and target freedom-fighting students for what they choose to post. But we are not backing down. No matter what, there is always hope. The preservation of a free society is always worth fighting for. And as long as we have conservative students empowered to stand up on campus and online, woke culture will be forced to fight back against reason, freedom, and American values. This is your voice, your stories, your fight. Together, we are on the front lines.
Let's talk shop this chop chop and give a little real talk, period. And today is a good day because you're about to smash with MAGA Hulk. Hulk! Smash! Oh, Yes, indeed. You know when it is, you know where it's at, you know what we do, you know how we do it. We tear down liberal ideologies one smash at a daggone time. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question. And my question is this. Why is it as a black community that we celebrate degeneracy? Why do we as a people give more love and respect to a thug coming out of daggone jail than a black conservative trying to do better for himself and his community? Why is that? Like, if you have a thug coming out of jail, right? The hood welcomes this person, this individual, typically a man, with open arms and rolls out the daggone red carpet for him, right? That's what happens when a thug comes out of jail. If I was to come out of jail, if I was in some type of gang, right, and I went and I committed some type of crime, went to jail, came out, and you better believe all the quote unquote homies would have a wonderful party for me, roll out the red carpet, oh, welcome home, all this type of stuff. I would have the welcome wagon set up for me. But as a black conservative jumping into the realm of politics, in efforts to help his community, in efforts to do something positive through his community, through public service and public policy, they are called the black face of white supremacy. Go and throw up slide one. Oh, yes, indeed. Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You have been warned, says the LA Times. Unbelievable. Oh, and this was when Larry Elder was running for governor of California doing the recall effort, the Newsom recall effort. And here's the thing, he's not even a full-on conservative. He's more of a libertarian. He has conservative ideals and notions and things of this nature, but he's mostly libertarian in his approach. But it doesn't matter. He was literally labeled as the black face of white supremacy, and black liberals agreed. They agreed with such notions. I remember I was at the gym and I was having a conversation with a bunch of fellas, and it's like I always say, it's a predominantly black gym that I go to. And some people were on the left that were in this group, and some people were on the right. And we were talking about different things that were going on in politics. And Larry Elder was brought up, and one of the leftists was like, "Oh, that fool." I was like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he was like, "Well, Larry Elder, he's just a white man trapped in a black man's body." And it's like, well, where are you getting this notion? And he's like, don't you know? I mean, he's definitely the black face of white supremacy. And as soon as he said that, I knew exactly what he was referencing. I knew exactly what he was talking about. I understood that he was going with the leftist talking points, the typical leftist talking points when it comes to Larry Elder and when it comes to other people, black conservatives and things of that nature. Never mind the fact that he's from South Central. Never mind the fact that he's trying to improve his community. Never mind the fact that he was running to improve the inner cities and provide more opportunities for Californians, help people out of abject poverty. Never mind that. Never mind that. Since you are a black conservative, you are to be vilified, disparaged, and torn down. I knew exactly where he was coming from. And so I asked him, I was like, what one thing did Larry Elder say that was factually incorrect? What one thing? Couldn't name it. Couldn't name it at all. Of course you can't, because at the end of the day, when it comes to facts, stats, and data, the left doesn't have that. All they have is conjecture, and they love to put people down because of their race, especially if you're black conservative. It's that simple. See, this is how they treat people like Larry Elder. This is how they treat people like me. This is how they treat people like Candace Owens. This is how they treat people like David J. Harris. They treat black conservatives, people who are trying to do something positive for their community, they treat us like pond scum. But a thug that comes out of prison after getting caught selling drugs to his community, hooking black mothers, black fathers, black sisters, black brothers, black sons, black daughters, those type of people who sell crack and heroin to the inner cities to his fellow black man, to his fellow black woman, those type of people are given a welcome, a warm welcome and a warm reception. These type of people who shoot up their block. They're coming out of jail for not snitching. They're accessories to murder, or they're murderers themselves, right? These type of people, they come out of of jail, and they're given the welcome wagon. Oh, welcome home to a real one, they say. Welcome home to a real one. Never mind the fact that they're terrorizing their community. Never mind the fact that they're doing nothing positive for the community. Never mind the fact that they're tearing down their community in grand freaking fashion. Never mind that. It doesn't matter. They are a thug. They are someone who is tearing down the community. They're someone who is doing something negative, and for whatever reason, they prop that up and put that on a daggone pedestal. That's what they do. But when it comes to someone trying to improve themselves or improve the black community, that's null and void. Go on, throw up slide 2. Chris Rock even mentions this in slide 2.
But you know what's wild? If you black, you get more respect coming out of jail than school. You get no respect coming out of school. You come out of jail, you're the f***ing man. What's up? You come out of school, nobody gives a f***. Hey, man, I got out of school, got my master's. So what? You punk. Don't come around with all that reading and don't come around with all that count. Count 2, 1, 2, 4, 5. So what? You counting these rocks?
Look at that. Why is that? Why do we celebrate mediocrity and devalue and tear down that which is positive and beneficial? Why do we do that? Well, it is because black people and the black community, unfortunately, and I'm saying the black community as a whole, I'm not saying all black people, because there's a lot of, like I said, black conservatives who are actually trying to do something good for the black, and there are some black liberals trying to do the same. There are also a select few who are actually doing outreach programs and things of this nature. But, you know, when it comes to a lot of these degenerate thugs and things of this nature, and when it comes to the black community as a whole, unfortunately, we have been coddled into complacency by the white liberal. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, because we have been coddled into complacency. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at it this way. Let's look at it in the terms of parenting. Say you have 7 kids, right? And one of your kids you single out as the known favorite of the household, right? One of the kids is a known favorite of the household, and no matter what this kid does, he is never wrong. He is never wrong. Everyone else is blamed for his mistakes, as a matter of fact, and his actual mistakes that actually catch up to him are just covered up. This would breed a sense of entitlement when it comes to that particular child, right? And when it comes to entitlement, entitled people become brats. And then they become self-destructive as they partake in destructive behavior because they aren't shown discipline and taught temperance. All right? Those are 2 essential things when it comes to parenting, when it comes to raising up a child. They got to understand discipline. They got to understand temperance, right? Boundaries need to be established. That's what needs to happen, people. And without boundaries, people are they can't properly understand right and wrong. They can't properly understand good, bad, and moral and immoral. They can't properly understand that because they haven't been taught that. And they're taught that through boundaries, through discipline, through temperance. They're taught that through all these different things. But if you show favoritism, that all goes by the wayside. And that's what's happening in the here and now, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening right now, right? We have entire generations of people that cannot properly assess right from wrong. They can't properly assess good from bad, good from evil. They can't properly assess moral from immoral. They can't do that. As a matter of fact, even, right? They are encouraged by enablers to think that what is wrong is not that bad, right? And understand this. It only happens when it comes to minority groups and minority communities, particularly the black community. So when it comes to the white liberal, they say it's terrible that if another white liberal did this would be absolutely horrid. This would be terrible. You can't do that as a white liberal. You better not do that as a white liberal. I have high expectations when it comes to the white liberal, when it comes to the black community. Oh, I understand. Oh, I understand why they're tearing up their own communities during the George Floyd riots. I understand why they're burning up and looting stores and terrorizing their own citizens in their own daggone communities and burning up their own shops, black-owned businesses. BLM is burning up black-owned businesses. And I understand as a white liberal, that's what they believe. This is what they say. And it's absolutely horrible. What do we call that? What do we call that, though? That's called the soft bigotry of daggone low expectations. Their expectations for themselves are extremely high. But when it comes to us, their expectations of us are not that high. They're actually rather low. We are expected to fail in their eyes. We are expected to act up in their eyes. We're expected to turn up and turn out and behave like immature children. Go on, throw up slide 3. Go on, throw up slide 3.
Look around you. Look at them. You really think anybody's gonna put these boys into some real combat? Do you? I mean, they're little children, for God's sake. They're little monkey children, and you just gotta know how to control them. You see what I mean? Children.
Oh, yes, indeed. This is what it is when it comes to the white liberal. Mr. and Mrs. Soft bigotry of low expectations thinks this is how they think when it comes to us black folk, right? When it comes to us, they have a very negative ideologies when it comes to us. They view us as very destructive people, so they enable that type of behavior, right? It's really sad. It's really sad how this happens, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to combat that. You know, and it's despicable how we are excused. We are excused when we act up in such ways. We are excused when we tear down our own communities and burn up our own shops and terrorize our own people. We are given the green light. We're excused, as a matter of fact. We're not excused by law enforcement, all right? We're excused by the culture. I need you to understand that difference. We're not excused by the law, but we're excused by the culture, right? We're not excused by the courts, but we're excused by the court of public opinion. That's what happens. The court of public opinion, it's a type of thing that vindicates bad behavior and rewards it with fame and notoriety. You see this with this next slide. Go and throw up slide 4. Oh, yes, indeed. It makes it seem like behavior like this, of people like this, they make it seem like it's good behavior, thus perpetuating the same cycle of bad behavior that begets good cultural rewards. And you see this happening. You saw that happen with George Floyd. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into the case, Derek Chauvin, whether, guilty or not guilty. That's neither here nor there when it comes to the situation right now. Okay. What we're talking about is the fact that he was a career criminal who did nothing but live a life of degeneracy, nothing but terrorize his own community, nothing but terrorize his own people. And he, this guy who happens to die at the hands of the police after living a life of squalor, living a life of crime, living a life of degeneracy, this man is given a golden casket, okay? A golden casket. This man has murals. This man has statues in his honor as if he did something benevolent for America. If anything, all he did was tear down or help or precipitate the tearing down of his own communities. That's what he did. That's what he contributed to. Goodness gracious, this is how it happens, ladies and gentlemen, and this results in people like him. This results in thugs. This results in drug dealers. This results in menaces to society getting the welcome wagon treatment for crimes committed. This is what happens. This is what we are enabling. So this corrupt culture at the end of the day incentivizes more crime. That's all this does. This corrupt culture incentivizes crime. So how do we combat this? How do we fix this? Because I'm not just a person that just points out the problems. We got to come up with some solutions. So here's some solutions I propose. Ultimately, what we have to do is break down cultural norms, and we have to de-incentivize crime. That's what we must do. We have to break cultural norms and de-incentivize crime. So on a social level, we need to stop promoting the thug mentality. We need to stop doing that, right? These these individuals who deem to tear down their own communities, they don't deserve our reverence. They don't deserve our praise. They do not deserve our adulation. The George Floyds of the world, they do not deserve that. These thugs who are going out there and shooting up our entire block and going to look at places like Chicago, people going out there, these thugs going out there and terrorizing their own daggone communities. We need to stop promoting them and looking at people like these people who drug deal and have a bunch of money as a result of tearing down their own community and killing their own people. We can't look at them as, hey, look at this person. I want to be just like him. You got these rap songs that promote this type of filth, that promote this type of degenerate living. This ideology that, hey, you can terrorize your own community. You can make songs about drugs that do nothing but tear down your community. And we are going to give you props for that. We are going to say you're the best rapper alive. We're going to sing and dance and have a good time to such songs. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with us celebrating degenerate living and degenerate lifestyles. I have a problem with that. Oh, goodness gracious. On the community level, ladies and gentlemen, we need to stop with this no snitch policy. This is one of the absolute dumbest, most asinine things to ever pop up into the black culture, into the black community. This is one of the most ridiculous things to ever befall the black community. So someone shoots up your block. Someone shoots up your block. Look at places like Chicago, Baltimore, whatever. They go down, do a drive-by in the whole block trying to get one target. They shoot their intended target, right? They also kill a 4-year-old. They also kill a 98-year-old. They also kill this and that innocence. And at the end of the day, everyone's going to run defense for them by keeping their mouth shut when it comes to somebody that's obviously does not care about the welfare of his own people. Do we not see a problem with that? Oh no, I don't want to be vilified. I don't want to be shamed. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut when it comes to this sort of thing. Oh, I'm not gonna say anything because snitches get stitches. Why do snitches get stitches? If there's someone who's proven that he's not gonna be a benefit to his own community, and as a matter of fact, gonna tear down his own community, that's gonna kill members of his own community, why don't you tell? I don't care if you're called a snitch. You're getting rid of somebody who's obviously terrorizing your own community. But yet and still we promote this idea that snitches get stitches. We promote this idea that don't you dare tell, right? You ain't a real one if you tell. I don't care if I'm a real one, quote unquote, by hood standards or not. All I care about is getting these thugs off our daggone streets. That's all I care about. Lord have mercy, goodness gracious. Let me move on. On the cultural level, we need to stop canonizing criminals, like I said, when it comes to George Floyd. Why are we canonizing career criminals that haven't done anything beneficial for culture or society? Why are we canonizing such people? Why is George Floyd canonized? Why is a career criminal canonized? Why is a career criminal given a golden casket? Why is he worshipped by celebrities and by mayors and governors and politicians and people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Why are they standing up speaking wonderful things about this career criminal? Why are we making it seem like it's okay to live a life of crime, and then if you die at the hands of the police, now you uplifted and put on this daggone pedestal? Why is that okay? Why is that something that people are going to think that's going to be a net benefit for the United States of America? You're incentivizing crime, as I said before. Do you really think this is going to have a positive impact on culture and society? Is that what you really think? I'm sorry, it's not. it's not going to have a positive impact. As a matter of fact, it's going to have the exact opposite of a positive impact. And you see that happening in here and now today. Goodness gracious. And on a macro level, we need to hire more police officers, obviously. We need to flood high crime areas with a formidable police presence, okay? Because crime statistics have shown that when there's an uptick in policing, crime goes down. When there's a less police presence, crime goes up, right? There's a direct correlation between the amount of policing and crime rates in America. It's a direct correlation. Of course, you know, if you say that, you're considered a racist. If you state such facts, you're considered a terrible person, a bigot. If you state such facts like that, it's kind of funny when you talk about what helps crime move on and grow and metastasize. You talk about certain things, and it's like, wait a minute. Oh no, you're a terrible person for wanting more police protecting our citizens. What? Goodness daggone gracious. On the macro level, we need to also have harsher sentences for repeat offenders when it comes to drugs and violent crime, right? This is how you demoralize those who live a life of crime or who wish to live a life of crime by severely punishing their criminality, right? I do not care if prison populations skyrocket. I do not care. As long as crime decreases. See, these thugs, these criminals, right? They got exactly what they deserve. They're in jail now. They want to terrorize their citizens and terrorize the communities and terrorize the United States of America. Guess what? You belong in jail. You don't belong in polite society. You belong in prison. That's where you belong. So I don't care if there's more of you type of thugs and degenerates in prison. I do not care, right? You have rolled your dice. You have made your decision. You wanted to be a criminal. You wanted to be a thug. So hey, let's give you the exact consequence of your actions. I don't care that prison populations skyrocket. I do not care. What I care about is the innocence that you are terrorizing. That's what I care about. And I wish people would have more understanding about that fact. You know, the Kim Kardashians of the world always trying to stand up for the people that are about to get executed. They made their decision. They made their decision. They wanted to live a life of crime. They wanted to go out and kill people. They get exactly what they deserve. But you want to advocate for them. Lord have mercy. Goodness gracious. So we need harsher sentences, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to severely punish criminality. Goodness gracious. And if you can't do the time, the daggone don't do the crime. That old school saying, Lord have mercy. And let's go on to the next macro level procedure I think we should implement. We need swifter death penalties for murders. You wanna kill people? Is that what you want to do on your spare time? Okay, you get to die also. How about that? That's what you get. No more sitting on death row for 5 to 20 years on the taxpayer's dollar. Oh, it's time to die, and it's time to die soon. You have proven that you are a menace to society. You have proven that you cannot function in polite society. You cannot be around those without terrorizing others. If you can't do that, all right, well, go ahead and remove yourself. Well, we're going to remove you. We're going to put you in jail, in prison where you belong, okay? And instead of you just sitting there on death row 5 to 20 years, rotting in prison on a taxpayer dollar, oh, you better believe it, you got to go. You got to go. You want to destroy polite society? You got to go. And here's the thing. Executions do 3 different things. Right? They do 3 different things for you and for society, or for the person and for society. All right. When facing execution, understand that execution helps concentrate the mind. Right? It helps concentrate the mind of the soon to be executed. It helps them focus on eternal aspects as opposed to the mere physical, because the mere physical is about to be gone. Okay? So it helps you focus on that which is eternal because you're now up against a situation where you're not going to be living on this earth much longer. So it's time to prepare yourself for the spiritual. So hopefully it turns people's minds and gets them thinking about eternal aspects as opposed to the physical, which is what they were so reliant on and which they destroyed themselves. Okay? So it helps them concentrate their mind. Also, executions help rid society of those who wish to do undue harm to innocence, right? These people who are doing harm to innocence, they don't deserve to be a part of polite society. They have proven that they don't deserve to be a part of polite society. If you want to hurt innocence, if you want to harm innocence, if you want to kill and snuff out the lives of innocents, then your life needs to be snuffed out as well, right? And also, number 3, it dissuades and discourages others from doing the same thing and following the same path, right? It discourages those who want to be the type of person who wants to shoot up an entire block. That's what it does. I mean, you look at the situation, like, let's put it in this terms. Let's look at child rape. Look at something like child rape. What if, when it comes to child rape, we cut off the penises of those who dare rape a child? What do you think that would do for society? What do you think that would do for the next would-be rapist? Do you think they're going to want to rape a child knowing that this is what they get once they get caught? Do you think that would deter rape a little bit? Goodness gracious, we got to think about things like this. So in the same sense, you got to look at that when it comes to murder. If you know that, as soon as you commit this murder and you are convicted, right, without a shadow of a doubt, and 3 days later you are facing the firing squad, the death, whatever death penalty they have in line for that state, don't you think that would deter crime a little bit? Don't you think that would give people at least a second thought when it comes to just pulling out their gun and shooting up the entire block? Goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen, we got to understand that we got to do drastic times calls for drastic measures. And when it comes to this situation, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go all the way when it comes to protecting our society and our citizens. Goodness, we have to combat the promotion of degeneracy. We have to tear it down and tear it up once and for all. That is mandatory. We have to do that when it comes to the rest of our citizens for the sake of the rest of our citizens. We need to get back to a more moralistic society. We need to get that back. And we cannot do that. That cannot happen as long as people value and see value in negativity and degeneracy. So let's devalue degeneracy and show that there is no benefit that comes about when it comes to these people and them trying to terrorize their communities and the United States of America and its citizens. Okay? So let's devalue and tear down degeneracy, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do that collectively because we have a better chance of doing it if we do it collectively. Anyways, daggone it, that's enough of that right there. Yes, indeed, my fellow smashers, time to dive into a segment called Don't Make Me. What is going on with my mouth today, daggone it? I'm having some technical daggone difficulties. Let's try that one more time. We're going to go into a segment called Don't Make Me Angry, where we go with whatever comments, whatever memes, whatever tweets you have sent into my email inbox, which is at magahulksmash@gmail.com. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into it with the remaining time we have. Looks like we have a little time, so let's go right into it and see whether you rather have me happy or angry today. Let's go on to number 1. Oh, yes, indeed. See, okay, this first one. It's a lady skydiving, and it's actually a Twitter post that she put. And she focused in on the skydivers that she's obviously skydiving with the instructor, and the instructor's helmet has Arrest Fauci on the helmet. There's a big sticker that says Arrest Fauci. And this lady says in her post, I literally put my life in this guy's hands and we all love him, but I didn't read the writing on his helmet until you have got to be effing kidding me. And then it shows at the very bottom that this tweet has been deleted because she got a lot of backlash. Now, I would suspect that she is a leftist, someone who worships Dr. Fauci, someone who reveres Dr. Fauci and puts him up on a pedestal. She probably worships at the altar of Dr. Daggone Fauci. But it's kind of funny, all of a sudden, this person who's going skydiving with her, obviously who's keeping her safe and sound and secure, this person is now the enemy because he believes, this instructor, I'm assuming it's a he believes that Fauci should be arrested, in which he should be. But all of a sudden, that's not okay when it comes to this leftist, and she has something. She has a visceral reaction to the fact that after the fact, this guy has a arrest Fauci daggone sticker. I love this guy. I applaud him, or this woman. But this other leftist, whoever this woman is, Tracy, Lord have mercy. You got a couple screws loose. You're focused on the daggone wrong thing. You're focused on the fact that you survived. This person helped you survive, obviously. So obviously this person deserves your admiration and your love and your respect, but not anymore because he has an arrest Fauci sticker. Lord have mercy. These leftists are so daggone loony, it's ridiculous. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, happy Banned Books Week. Happy Banned Books Week. These are the most banned books from public libraries and schools in the U.S. Oh, my goodness. And it has a list of books. It's To Kill a Mockingbird, The Catcher in the Rye, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, George Orwell, Animal Farm. Goodness gracious. These are all books that should be read today. These are classics. And because they depict racism, which is what happened in the past, they want to cancel that. They want to make it seem like anything that depicts racism or anything that's distasteful should automatically be canceled. I can't stand that they're doing this because they're missing out on a lot of good literature that's going to help them navigate the world today. They can see what's bad and say, hey, I don't like that. We shouldn't be a part of that. Let's put that to the side. And that's what it should be. Same thing when they cancel these statues, right? Of these the Robert E. Lee and all these type of people. At the end of the day, this is our history. And we can't just neglect our history just because it makes you feel bad. We can't neglect our history just because you have a visceral reaction to it. That's the whole point. You look at history and you learn from it. You look at literature and you say, hey, these concepts back then were not okay, but we have progressed to a point where these concepts are not okay, and we know that, right? But you can still pay homage to that which came before, but not when it comes to the daggone left. The left wants to tear down anything that is distasteful. And of course, if they want to tear down anything, why don't we start with the left? Let's tear them down because their whole movement is distasteful. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, it shows two people sad looking out of a window inside of their house, and it says, it's from the Babylon Bee, so you know it's a goodie. Leftists deeply afraid things could go back to normal. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yes, indeed. They are. It's almost like the left loves the fact that the country is crumbling at their feet. They love it. They can't get enough of it. They love the fact that this country is tearing down and becoming a communist hellscape. They love the fact that socialism is coming into play. They love the fact that Marxism is putting class against class, citizen against citizen, especially when it comes to the CRT. They love what's going on with our country. They want to see our country fail, and they're upset. They're upset that what's coming to a close is this whole era of these lockdowns and the mandates and all this type of stuff that's doing a number on the United States of America. They're sad and they're daggone near tears because of it. And I'm kind of happy about that because I love leftist tears. It's so salty. It's so good. It's electrolyte filled. I love it. So go on and keep crying, leftists. We're going to get back to normal. We, the people, are going to make sure that happens. Let's go on to this next one. Oh, it has the Dave Chappelle, the closer. Okay, so it shows the Rotten Tomato chart for Dave Chappelle, the closer, and it shows the tomato meter 33%. When it comes to those who are reviewing, of course, the Netflix people that review it, and or the Rotten Tomato people that review it, and 96% for the audience score. So obviously the audience loves it. Okay, the audience loves what they hear when it comes to the Dave Chappelle show, but when it comes to these woke leftists with the tomato meter, of course, they don't love it at all. But and they contrast it with Cuties. Now, Cuties has an 88% tomato meter, which means that these leftists love what they saw when they had half-naked girls gyrating their bodies in such a despicable way. They love that. They love, because, you know, the left is very friendly. I'm not going to blatantly accuse them, but I'm saying they're very friendly when it comes to pedophilia. They're very friendly with that. And you see that as it's described, it's showcased right here. That's an 88% when it comes to Cuties, when it comes to these leftists, the leftist critics. And when it comes to the audience score, it was 16%. So the people have spoken. The people have daggone spoken when it comes to Cuties, and the people have spoken when it comes to the closer, when it comes to the Dave Chappelle's closer. The Dave Chappelle show, it's kind of like the same thing when it comes to Twitter. Twitter is not real life, okay? Twitter is not real life. It's a representation. It's a leftist hellscape of a bunch of people trying to virtue signal to one another, and it's not real life at the end of the day, okay? Same thing when it comes to this tomato meter, right? That's not real life. What's representative is the people's score, right? The audience score, and that's showcased that the audience had a wonderful reaction to the Dave Chappelle, the closer special, and they could not stand Cuties. That's real life. That's what you should pay attention to. Daggone it, but the left can't have it. They can't stand it. Oh, Lord have mercy. But it looks like we ran out of time. We had so many more to go through, but we ran out of time. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you know I always have a good time with you either way. So thank you, fellow smashers, for tuning in today. You can find more of me on Turning Point USA on YouTube. Yes, indeed. You can find me at Real Talk Period Productions on YouTube as well. And you can also find me at Real MAGA Hulk on both Instagram and Twitter. And ladies and gentlemen, let us remember that degeneracy has no place in polite society. So let us all do our part to combat it at every turn, shut it down, and knock it off the face of this daggone country, okay? Anyways, yes, indeed, we will see you next time for more liberal ideological destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.
Hey there, it's Jon Root. Coming up next on TPUSA Live, tune into the newest episode of Politics, where host Alex Clark will tell you all about some interesting news, like a Nipplegate documentary detailing the Janet Jackson incident from the '04 Super Bowl halftime show, news that the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is coming back, a sports recap, and so much more pop culture without the propaganda. Next on Politics.
Alexa, play Despacito.
I just have one thing to say. Hang on here. All right.
Did you know the government is torturing January 6 prisoners and holding them in inhumane conditions for political purposes? Would you watch a documentary all about Nipplegate, why Ed Sheeran thought he might be gay, and why Colin Kaepernick is the biggest fraud to ever fraud with the sports recap? I will give you the quickest, fastest, and most solid daily pop culture breakdown in the conservative movement. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Politics. There seems to be some serious human rights abuses going on with the January 6th detainees. Almost a year later, dozens of Capitol protesters are still being held without trial. A lot of them are even in solitary confinement. We are talking about people who have been charged with no violent offenses, and they're being treated worse than murderers.
Hey, wait, how is this legal?
The New York Post has reported that a group of lawyers have been investigating these injustices, and they've written letters to Amnesty International and the American Civil Liberties Union. They say in addition to prolonged solitary confinement, January 6ers have been beaten, denied medical treatment, denied regular shower access, as well as reasonable access to personal hygiene items. It is clear that January 6ers' constitutional rights are being violated at DC Gitmo within 5 miles of the White House.
Well, we have ways of making it talk.
Tucker Carlson just released a docuseries called Patriot Purge, where he explores that there is a domestic war on terror happening right now. And you and I, as conservatives, are enemy number one. Tucker goes into what actually happened on January 6th, and what he says will shock you. I'll give you a hint. A name you need to know, Ray Epps.
The domestic war on terror is here, is coming after half of the country.
The helicopters have left Afghanistan, and now they've landed here at home.
And the left is hunting the right, sticking them in Guantanamo Bay for American citizens, leaving them there to rot.
You can stream the Fox Nation series and all Tucker content right now for 90 days free, exclusively by going to tuckercarlson.com. What are your theories on what's going on with the January 6th detainees?
She is no longer yours to torment.
Everyone is mine to torment.
Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl Nipplegate is going to be examined in a new FX documentary.
Do you think in any way that Justin Timberlake left you hanging out there?
According to the New York Post, the team behind the show is the same one that launched Framing Britney Spears. It's sort of interesting how young JT is involved with yet another docuseries involving a controversial pop culture event.
This is gonna be good.
The movie will dive deep into the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show incident, which saw Justin Timberlake expose Jackson's breast on live TV in front of millions upon millions of viewers.
3 boob is a 1 too many boob.
The new documentary will be called Malfunction and will debut November 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern simultaneously on both FX and Hulu.
You need to stop that right now. This is a family show.
Remember how lame the Macy's Day Parade was last year because of the pandemic? Usually the streets are packed with people, and last year only a few select floats came down the completely empty New York streets. Depressing was an understatement.
With performances by star of The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon, and The Roots, the queen of country music, Dolly Parton, singing sensation Tori Kelly, pop star Bibi Rexha.
The good news is that this year the parade will be back to being what it was pre-pandemic, with live performances by Carrie Underwood and Kristen Chenoweth, to name a few. There will also be 15 giant character balloons featuring a brand new star, Baby Yoda. Does your family watch the Macy's Day Parade every year, or is my family the only one that does that?
It's a giraffe!
Ed Sheeran says that when he was little, he thought he was gay. He said on a podcast that as a child, he was so in touch with his feminine side that he wondered if he might be gay.
OMG guys. Ed Sheeran is in my car.
Girl, you know I want you.
He said, I love musical theater, I love pop music, I love Britney Spears. My masculine side probably stops at drinking beer and watching football. And he says he's not a car guy.
I'm not saying you're anti-gay, I'm saying you are gay.
Ardor?
You are gay.
Ardor.
Are gay.
This is what is so stupid about the left. They preach about how gender stereotypes are harmful and we shouldn't expect all boys to like certain things and all girls to like certain things. And yet, if you are a boy or girl who likes the opposite things of your stereotype, now they won't even say you're gay. They'll say you're trans. Ed Sheeran is lucky that he was born when he was, because if he would have gone through this sort of period of doubt now in 2021, he would certainly be Eva Sheeran.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
Get ready, because I got a short sports recap for you this week. Yay, sports! On a new Netflix special, Colin Kaepernick compares being in the NFL to slavery. So there's that.
Look at this here. Come on, who wants this? 700. There we go now. Look down. 1,000. I'm telling you what I want.
How in the world can you compare a bunch of guys, of all colors by the way, because not every NFL player is black, to being a slave? Also, you're making millions and millions of dollars to play this sport.
This is insane, you fool!
Wasn't Colin Kaepernick like 2 weeks ago saying how he prays every night to go back to play in the NFL? This man is a scam artist extraordinaire. He'll do anything for the grift. Colin, maybe you weren't good at football because you clearly have no idea what it is.
I think we might have a hustler here.
I started watching Gwyneth Paltrow's Sex, Love, and Goop. Oh boy, that's a weird show. She is so odd, and yet I can't stop watching. I feel like she's the cool girl from school that you either loved or hated. There was no in between. Anyway, have you seen it? Do you love her? Does she bug you? Today is the last day to catch up on the spillover before the new episode tomorrow night at midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific, so make sure you do that. Friday night, I'm speaking at Texas A&M. DM me at Politics on Instagram for the RSVP link if you want to go. Speaking of tickets, make sure you're getting your America Fest tickets at tpusa.com/AmericaFest. Use code Alex for 25% off. You're welcome. We are still struggling with the algorithm changes for people to see Politics episodes. So, like this episode, tell me what your theories are on the January 6th prisoners, if your family watches the Macy's Day Parade, and Sharon thinking that he was gay, and Colin Kaepernick comparing the NFL to slavery. Then post this episode to your stories and hit the save button. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and I will have new hair. It's makeover time again. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Politics. Support Politics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at Politics.
Thank you so much for joining us today on TPUSA Live. Don't forget, tonight is another installment of Charlie Kirk's CRT tour on college campuses, this time at the University of Alabama.
Oh yeah, roll tide. So you got to make sure you tune in 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to be 7 p.m. local time out there. The Exposing Critical Racism tour with Charlie Kirk. It's going to be all across his social media channels. Tune in. It's going to be a great time, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.